Hi, this is Eva from Once Upon a Timeline. Welcome to the Midnight Mandela Show. Looks like it's going to be pretty quiet tonight. I actually did get my notifications out early, but who knows if YouTube actually sent it out. So who's in here? David Kent, Roger Prescott, Lord Frybread, Monty Hendricks, Shari D, welcome, KDB, and that's it. It's probably one of our... Oh, Boiling Frogs is in. It might be only the people who just remembered on their own, because I'm wondering if maybe YouTube did not do their job. Wouldn't be the first time. Okay, so we've got kind of a moderate number of items for today. Maria's in. All right, so couple of world news things, and then we're on to the Mandelas. First up, I thought this was interesting. Apparently, Canada is commissioning to build internment camps all over the country. Always a good sign. Not. This guy here, Randy Hillier, or Hillier, I'm not sure if it's the French pronunciation or what, but he is what's the word for him? MPP of Canada, which is Member of Provincial Parliament. So it's kind of like not super high ranking politician dude is kind of the impression I got, like maybe like the legislature for a province of Ontario, I think is what he is. And so he's fairly anti-lockdown, and he's bringing this up to the Legislative Assembly, and his issue is that he's seen that they've commissioned these and they don't really say what they're for. Now, this has been circulating, and the official response is it's for international travelers and as voluntary for people who don't have a place to stay for the sea. But interestingly, the actual wording of the bills and stuff for this doesn't even mention international travelers or any such. It's very vague statement. So he's calling it the RFI. That's probably like the official documents is what my impression of the word RFI is. It's just a very broad statement. So it sounds like they're building isolation, quarantine facilities in every province. And he's asking what for, and they're just totally ignoring him, basically. I'm going to just play a little clip. I hope I don't get in trouble for that. I'm imagining that this guy probably won't say anything, but you never know if YT will say something. Okay, so this is him just kind of talking about it a bit. He's actually at the assembly here asking questions. They just come basically blow him off when he asks.
In September, the federal government posted a call for expressions of interest for contractors to supply, provide, and manage quarantine isolation camps throughout every province and every territory in Canada. These quarantine isolation camps, however, are not limited to people with COVID, but provide a wide latitude for many people to be detained.
Okay, so I'm not going to play too much more, but you can pull it up yourself. Randy Hillier, or Hillier, he's on YouTube. It's October 8th, questions, what's going on is the title of it. Anyway, interesting. I don't know what's going on in Canada, but they're building concentration camps, basically. I mean, who knows if they'll really use them in a bad way, but they're detention facilities, so they're claiming that it's going to be voluntary, but the construction is for detention facilities. So if it's voluntary, then why do you have that terminology in there? So of course now it's considered false, fake news if you say that they're detention camps, even though the wording is worded like that. So Canadians, be careful, please. Okay. For the latest whack-doodle accusation of something that the sea causes, I heard, the sea causes hearing loss. Hearing loss. Okay, so I looked up hearing loss as a complication of the sea. So apparently hearing loss is actually a common side effect of the medications that they're using to treat the C. But of course, they're blaming it on the C and not the medications to treat the C. Autopsy reports have detected the virus in the middle ear bones. It's mostly just case reports. A German man experienced acute profound hearing loss after developing the C19. After developing C19 pneumonia. So he had pneumonia also. Pneumonia is known to cause hearing loss, but they're saying it's the C, of course. A UK survey found that nearly 1 out of 10 C patients self-reported either hearing loss or tinnitus 8 weeks later. Now, what they didn't say in here is if they had any of that before. Did they develop hearing loss or tinnitus 8 weeks after the C, or have they always had it? Because it doesn't say here, and that's like really crucial information, because I think we all know in the Mandela Effect community that tinnitus is pretty common in our community, and I've been kind of watching tinnitus, and so the current stats on tinnitus is that 32% of the U.S. population has tinnitus, apparently, or somewheres therein, according to National Center of Health Statistics Studies, which is a huge amount of the population, and it is more common in older people. So, and then the C is more common in older people. So a giant ton of these people who are getting the C are already going to have tinnitus anyway, or maybe be on the verge of it. I don't know. The tinnitus is just so common in current timelines. Strangely, nobody ever even asks why. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it was always common in this timeline. I'm not sure. Let's see. Oh, they're talking more about the antiviral medications known to treat tinnitus. The C have known adverse events, including tinnitus and hearing loss, and the symptoms may be misdiagnosed as the C, states authors of the systemic review mentioned above. So this is actually a fairly realistic article, but what we're hearing in the news is the C causes hearing loss. So this is just kind of classic news media baloney, as we are so used to. All right, this last thing was pretty bizarre, and I heard of this one on this little tiny news list that I'm on, that I'm basically only on because I can't figure out how to get off of it, and I'm too lazy to really pursue it. Oh shoot, I had it highlighted, but looks like it's gone now. Oh, okay, this is why, because it's over there. So this article is the main article, which sounds pretty complicated. RNAs resistant virus-like particles containing long chimeric RNA sequences produced by two plasmid co-expression systems. So I don't expect you to understand that. It took me a while to figure out even vaguely what they were talking about. But basically what this is they figured out how to make little RNA sequences like they're testing for in the PCR test. Okay, and they can manufacture those now, and then you can use those to trigger or test. They're saying they're testing PCR tests with these. So basically they can create these RNA sequences just as if they came out of a virus, and then put them on the PCR test and trigger the PCR test. So they can basically make false positives if they want to. Now they're saying this is for testing the PCR tests. And they have done it for, they said they can do it for pretty much anything. They tested it against, and this is where it gets interesting, okay? I know it sounds kind of boring, but this is where it gets interesting. They can test it with, where is it all? I'm going to tell you the boring ones, and I'm going to tell you the interesting ones. They've made the virus segments for the PCR test for hepatitis C, avian influenza virus matrix, H5N1 avian influenza, SARS-CoV-1, SARS-CoV-2, and SARS-CoV-3. Okay, far as I know, there is no such thing as SARS-CoV-3. I've not heard of one because we're only supposed to be up to SARS-CoV-2. Okay, but here's where it gets really, really interesting. Okay, SARS-CoV-2, they're testing this to check for SARS-CoV-2, but when was this published? Now, when I looked this up earlier today, it said on here when it was published, and now I can't find it. But when I click on the PDF, it still says it. Okay, this was published in December 2000. Let's see. Received November 2007, returned for modification December 2007, accepted 2008. So it was published accepted in this form in 2008. Okay, so what is SARS-CoV-2 doing in a 2008 publication when it was supposedly only discovered in 2019? Very, very suspicious. Now, it could be, yes, it could be that maybe they just named it this and somehow nobody knew about it and then they named something else the same thing. But it sounds very suspicious. And then when you look at what they're doing, which is basically fabricating RNA sequences to trigger positive PCR test results, that is even more suspicious. This is extremely suspicious. And I have not seen this gone viral yet. So I'll probably send this to some people after I get it out here today and see if they will push it a little bit, because this is weird. Okay, so that was my big discovery, although I personally did not discover it, but very interesting. All right, so that's the end of the world news that I have right now. I'm waiting for zombies and people with horn and tail. Oh, well, you know, I have not seen anybody on the street with any of this stuff, but there is a lot of images of people with horns and tails online that are supposedly, you know, they've got that thing where they say that, like, weird, they're calling it like the tree man, you know, and, but people are just getting those growing on their head and stuff. And, you know, the first images I saw of them, they just showed little bumps. But now I see those same images, and their images are not supposed to have changed because it's supposed to be the same photo. But they're getting very horn-like, let's just say, as we shift through the timelines. So, I don't know what we're going to see. But, you know, I have yet to see anybody with, like, vitiligo, or any of this stuff in real life, like these super skinny people that I don't think would have been alive in my old timeline because they couldn't have survived. I received a notification from YT. Oh, that's good. Well, maybe everybody's just, I don't know, zoned out or something. Yeah, you know, I gotta say, I have, you know, for years I heard about the internment camps, and there was just like no evidence I could see that they would ever do that. And it's like everything we think about a lot comes to reality. You know, there wasn't any evidence, at least in my old timeline. Maybe in this timeline there always was. I don't know, but be careful about what you think about is all. I mean, I might even be contributing to it by pushing this, like, fear porn, basically. But I think we also need to look at where we want to go with it. Just because stuff is brewing doesn't mean the worst case scenario has to happen. We could learn from it. So, CEO of Disneyland publicly objected to CA's restrictions for opening Disneyland. A lot of jobs lost so far. Yeah, well, you know, every business person who's, you know, basically screwed by this is not happy. It's just pretty interesting that business people are the ones, except for the top 10 in the world, which are raking it in, like Amazon, and those guys are raking it. They're up like 35%. And if I was selfish and greedy, then I would love the lockdowns, because my income went way up during the hardcore lockdowns. But, you know, it's still wrong and it still hurt a lot of people, even though I got a truck out of it. But you also have to think long term, you know. Even if you are selfish and greedy, think long term. So you get more money now, but you ruin the world's economy. You know, long term, that's gonna hurt you too. It's gonna come around and bite you. You know, I think that we must be running on fairy dust though, because the economy should be way worse. I mean, if anything was real, if the economy worked like the Matrix has taught us all this time, the economy should be 10 times worse than it is. I mean, there's a lot of people out of work. I don't need those anymore. And the economy should be like just totally hideous right now, and yet people are still buying stupid crap on the internet. And this I can attest to, since I still sell stupid crap on the internet and kind of nice stuff, but you know, nothing you require to live, I promise you. And people are still buying all that stuff. I don't know why, but I'm not going to complain about it. I have seen info on Aussie detention camps. I'll do a quickie on this one. Australian think tanks finds 380 detention camps. Let's see what we got here. Oh, they're talking about China. All right, so that's not in Australia. China's still building detention camps in Xinjiang. I don't know. See, you know, the thing with China is, as far as I can tell, everything's running totally normally in China. You know, all of my vendors are producing normally, as fast as ever. The main problem has been shipping across the ocean has been a little slow, but I'll tell you, I call my Chinese places and they're boom, 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 producing my stuff. Then I called other places in America and they're under lockdown. And I get a lot of my stuff from Xinjiang and like the southeast side, and they never locked down outside of Wuhan. They were always perfectly fine. So they just had that one section of Wuhan that locked down for a while, and that's it. All right. Well, because of this 380 detention camps in Xinjiang, I can't find anything on Australia. Isn't that convenient? Sometimes if you go to Yandex, you could find something, but... The Russian vaccine is allowed here now. They said Chinese vaccine tests were very successful. Oh, sure they are. I'd like to see the research on that. Surely, Armic, nobody fell over dead yet, basically. Yeah, every country, all the wealthy countries, all the Commonwealth countries are going the same way. Australia, Canada, England, India. Yeah... Yeah, and I don't know, there's a weird timeline thing, because, you know, I've said a bunch of times that I don't remember, like, Australia being under the thumb of Great Britain for so long, or having their flag there, or the Queen being your queen. I was just like, what? Like, you have a queen and it's her? I mean, like, I've never even heard of something like that. So, this timeline, it's different. We have many immigration detention centers in northern Australia, but haven't heard of any C ones as of yet. Yeah, well, you can always, you know, leave it in the comments if you find links with, like, reasonably credible information versus just people claiming it, you know, because 99% of stuff online is just people repeating what they think they heard, but, you know, there's got to be at least some kind of slightly credible information, like that guy, that politician in Canada, is reading directly from information that he has, and nobody has disputed it in his country, so it's probably legit. Now they're disputing the purpose behind it, but that's just claims. They're not disputing they're building them or anything, and they're not disputing what was written on the literature. So I think they were saying, what was it, Argentina or something? They're going to distribute like a few million vaccines starting early next month. So like in a week or two, they're going to start injecting people there. It's going to be military and nurses and stuff. So I'm glad I'm not in that field. Oh boy, the military are always the suckers. They're like the guinea pigs, man. It's just such a dichotomy because the news is like the few, the proud, blah, 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 blah. But then the way they're actually treated, they're treated like cannon fodder and guinea pigs. So be all proud and don't think about how hard we're just going to use you like dog meat. My Amazon order from UK takes 5 weeks to arrive. Oh, you're lucky it only took 5 weeks. I mean, that sounds facetious, but it's not. I mean, stuff going from here to there can take 2 to 3 months right now or longer. I've just shut down most of my overseas shipping because people just demand their money back after a couple months, and I can't really blame them. Any businessmen should know how to think sustainable. They should, they should, but I don't know, especially in this timeline. It's like people are under a spell where they just can't think clearly. And I don't know if it's just this whole timeline and it's always been that way, or just the pressures we're under right now. I've said before that I was, especially for quite some time, I was just having trouble getting my brain to work normally. I just had to push so hard. And if everybody is going through that, that might account for some of the problems. I'm doing a lot better with the DMSO now, but I don't know, there's something going on with brain waves or something. I don't know what it is. And I'm hearing it from other channels, just waves of brain fog. And up until the last 2 years, I've never even heard of the word brain fog before, and now you see it all the time. Treatments for brain fog, this causes brain fog, blah 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 blah. Brain fog, that's the catchword, especially the last year. Yeah, economy should not exist by now, so I do really think that something's propping it up. Whatever the Matrix told us about how the economy operates, I don't think, at least not right now, it can't be operating that way, because there's just no way that we would be in as good a shape we are. I mean, I know individuals are suffering quite badly on an individual level, not having income, 20% unemployment, businesses are suffering. But economy-wise, people are still spending, and it should be really in the dumps. I mean, this is not nearly as bad as it was 10 years ago, the economy collapse, and it should be like 10 times worse. So, as much as we hear about all these food production problems, there's still food on the shelf. Beef was slowed down for a little while. It was a little pricey for like a month, and now it's back. The price is maybe $1 a pound more than before, but nothing that's going to ruin you unless you're really, really on the edge already. So it's impossible, it's impossible how good we're doing. So I'm complaining, and I did predict this. I don't know why and how and what this has to happen this way, but Janty Moody's in. Welcome, welcome. Voidscape. I didn't recognize the Australian flag when I saw it in 2016. Yeah, no, for me it was a big old kangaroo on their flag. It was kind of a goofy flag, and but it was so iconic. And there sure as heck was not. Britain didn't have their little putty paw flag on anybody else's flag that I know of. They didn't have it on Hawaii, and they didn't have it on Australia. Those countries had their own flags. The skull feels weird again. Any new changes? I haven't really checked. I haven't seen any humongous skull changes. There's one that I'm going to have later in Mandela Land that's on, like, in the inside. And I'm not sure when this one showed up, because this one is not one you could see on the skull itself, but it's in the fleshy parts. And that's the thing. Some of these changes may just be fleshy part changes, and those are pretty hard to track. Dark Wolf's Den, welcome, welcome. So yeah, basically found another organ in your brain. A big one. I don't know how they could have missed it. I mean, the answer is they couldn't. Eye sockets. Well, those are old, though. I mean, years ago, Mandela Effect for me, unless you've got something new. But yeah, the eye sockets being open in the old days, that was like at least 4 years ago's Mandela. Okay, you know what? Since we're on this subject, I'm going to jump straight over to the new one. Since we're done with world news. Doink. Dig down to that one. This one, Shari D mentioned it to me, but it looks like it was brought up on retconned by user Omega Constant is the one who found this new organ, because there hasn't been any of those lately. Ha ha ha. Discovered a mysterious organ lurking in center. Now, remember how I was saying how the sinuses here are much bigger to me? Like there's a huge open space back in there, and I noticed that when they do these PCR tests, they're basically ramming that swab like halfway into your head. I don't think you could have ever gotten the swab back that far in my old timeline, because the sinuses weren't open like that. And I can feel it in there, like more air. So they're basically taking that sucker and just back to almost smacking it, like they're smacking it to the edges of your brain. You can actually poke something all the way back into almost touching your brain now. I mean, there's a wall there between it and the brain, but you basically can paint the other side of the brain case with a swab right now, and that's what they're doing with these PCR swabbings. So this just happens to be in the same location here. Just happens to be in the same place. So they're saying that there's it's weird that they're calling these, because they're calling them salivary glands. So apparently now the word salivary glands and the word mucous membranes are getting kind of conflated together. But they're basically saying there's this huge thing here, and it goes on both sides like a big horseshoe, is a salivary gland that they never knew about. And look at how big it is. I mean, you know, that's got to be like that big on both sides, and they never knew that it was in there until just now. Made a surprise anatomical discovery, finding what looks to be a mysterious set of salivary glands hidden inside the human head, which somehow have been missed by scientists for centuries. This unknown entity was identified by accident by doctors in the Netherlands who were examining prostate cancer patients. Okay, I mean, they're examining prostate cancer patients? Sorry, I mean, my anatomy isn't perfect, but that is not where your prostate is on your head. Okay. Unless people in the Netherlands have unusual anatomy, I don't see how they were seeing all this stuff in the head while examining the prostate cancer with, with an advanced type of scan called PSMA PET CT. I mean, is this another like Mandela joke that they're trying to mess with us? When paired with injections of radioactive glucose, this diagnostic tool highlights tumors in the body. What is this, like the tumors? I have not seen it spelled with an O-U-R-S. I guess they'll probably blame that on Britain. I don't know, you British? Is that how you spell tumors? Because I have not seen it written like that. In this case, however, it showed up something else entirely, nestled in the rear of the nasopharynx, and quite the long time lurker. So look at it. It's freaking huge. It goes from your nose down past your teeth, so it's like that long, and both sides, like a giant mustache in the back of your freaking, in the middle of your head, right where they're poking that swab, I might add. They're calling them the tubercle glands structure, indicated by the blue arrows. You can see right here the blue arrows pointing at it. I mean, there's no freaking way they wouldn't see this after all these years. Come on. As far as we know, the only salivary or mucus glands in the nasopharynx are microscopically small. So imagine our surprise when we found these. Salivary glands are what produce saliva, essential for our digestive system to function. All right, so now they're saying that they thought we only had 3 major salivary glands, and that's these ones. I don't know what's the bleep up here. I don't know why they'd call that a salivary gland. Up in the eye, mucous membrane might make sense. We know there's been a lot of eye structure changes from the Mandela, but this whole article kind of is weird. I could see salivary glands around the mouth, but I don't know why they would count these ones up here as salivary. Are you eating with your eyeballs now? Ostensibly the 4th set of major salivary glands, located by the nose and above the palate, close to the center of the human head. This is a cross section. Torus tubarius. Cartilage. So it's this thing apparently, and that one, I don't understand that one as well. I'm not going to play it because copyright. The 2 new areas that lit up turned out to have other characteristics of salivary glands as well. We call them tubercle glands. They were seen to exist in all of the 100 patients examined in the study, and physical investigations of 2 cadavers, 1 male and 1 female, also showed the mysterious bilateral structure. To our knowledge, the structure did not fit prior anatomical descriptions. It could contain a large number of seromucous acini with physiological role for nasopharynx, oropharynx, lubrication, and swallowing. Okay, so where do they poke that? Here they are, right here. I mean, are you not going to know about those? All right, and then this is that tube that goes back to your ear. All right, so where are they? Oh, there's a gnat bugging me. Where are they poking that? Where are they poking that PCR test? Right here. They're poking it here. Okay. I mean, literally, it's just, it's a little bit weird. Now they're claiming it's only the new PSMA imaging techniques that would be able to detect the structures, going beyond CT and MRI scans. Yeah, but I mean, they've been dissecting human bodies for hundreds and hundreds of years, including the brain. I mean, you do that in freaking college classes. I mean, there's no way. Nothing that big, you wouldn't know? No. based on retrospective analysis of 723 patients who underwent radiation treatment, seem to support the conclusion that radiation delivered to the tubercle glands region results in greater complications for patients afterwards. Why would you be... Another target to avoid during radiation treatments for patients with cancer, as salivary glands are highly susceptible to damage from therapy. So what they've already... Okay, well, they're calling it a retrospective analysis. Okay, so they're important because if you nuke them with radiation, according to this retrospective analysis, there's more complications. I don't know. Anyway, that it's getting rather ridiculous at this point. But it's also very... I don't think it's a coincidence that these are related to what's going on now. I don't know how, why exactly. I mean, I see the clues, but I don't know what the clues mean. I felt like my head is in a pressure cooker for a long time now. Yes, that's why I started taking that DMSO. It has helped a lot. Brain fog. And yes. And it's not just me, it's a lot of people. I don't know, maybe I'm just too stubborn and they won't let me through to the new wacky timelines. I don't fit in, but I definitely seem to be having more problems than some. I don't recognize the underside of my tongue. Is it human anatomy anymore? If you put a mirror in and look up on the roof of your mouth and look in there, that's got some interesting stuff. In the bottom of the tongue, a lot of people have those tentacles. If you dry the bottom of your tongue, you can see the tentacles. It's an old video of mine, the tongue tentacles, but it is actually one that still gets a lot of hits. Chronic allergies since August. Yeah, my friend's grown allergies. He says he's always had them, but he sure as hell hasn't. His virgins I knew of him. Did you see someone's brain fluid was leaking through their nose after a test? I've heard that. Yes. I don't think access to the brain was as easy in the old days as it is now, but I definitely... I mean, really, you could have just... Is it that easy to just... I mean, I don't know. It just kind of freaking me out that basically you can poke the back, almost poke your brain now through your nose. And I guess if you poke hard enough, you will poke your brain. Prodnet's caster says the Australian flag is similar but a little different than what you remember. I swear the pineal gland wasn't a real organ before. I remembered being this little tiny thing at first, but I do remember being a little surprised about it because I don't remember studying that all in college. And it seems like it's just been like slowly growing. But the whole middle of the brain now is very different than when I was in college. I've covered this before, but let's see. Interesting. It hasn't seemed to change a lot. You know, it went through a lot of changes some years ago. This does look a little different right here. What's that little finger sticking out? That might be new since... It's been a while since I've really looked at it. See if I can make this smaller. I mean, larger. This little finger here is new for me, but... Okay, so this area here is a lot bigger and more specialized than when I was in college. This was just a tiny little brainstem area in here, and the majority was this gray and white matter up here. And now this is kind of a thinner layer, and this whole middle part has gotten way more sophisticated. So from the outside, it kind of looks the same. Also, I didn't have this, like, I call it the ear flap. There wasn't like this weird flap. And also, the wrinkles are now very similar across people, and they didn't used to be. They used to be a unique feature of each individual, but now they have the wrinkles. Like a lot of these wrinkles got names because they're the same across people. That was not the case before. And I did do a lot of classes on brain anatomy and functioning, so that's one area where I'm fairly confident in. And I got A's. I was a little nerd, so I was paying attention, let's just say. Never thought any of that stuff would do me any good, but now at least it lets me notice Mandela's. Cerebellum was small. Oh, yes. Yes. It was smaller. Oh, yeah. And, let me just get a back view here. Sarah A. Back view. There. It wasn't like this. It was just this little thing in here, and now there's this split. If like you can see this split, this was tucked all in here. If you look from the back view, you wouldn't see it. It'd just be all tucked up under here, and this was all tiny in here, and this was just maybe 10 or 20% of the size it is now. It didn't come out with these wings on the side, and when you looked at the back of the head straight on, you would have not seen, like, there's like a crack here basically between the cerebellum and the main brain, and that was not the case because it was all tucked up under the brain, and the rest of the brain flopped over it. You wouldn't have seen it. So look at this image. This is just absolutely outrageous to me, with these lobes and stuff. That just looks like, I don't know what that looks like, but it doesn't look like a brain to me. But that's basically, that's an illustration, but that's what you see from the back now. It looks outrageous to me. Just, it looks ridiculous. Anybody who studied the brain from my old timeline will be like, what? See, again, all this. No, you couldn't see all that. This was down in the front, and this was all tiny up in there. Cerebellum, little brain. It was little. Cerebellum means little brain, and it was literally a little brain. This area is more responsible for like motor control and stuff, and so it kind of makes sense because motor control has improved quite a bit. I don't know what's going on with the pineal gland. And pineal, I believe, was way in the back of the head before. It's moved up quite a bit with the newer timelines. The osmoidal bone that showed up on my thumb has disappeared. Not sure on what that is. Let's see. Maybe it's shifted around. There's definitely new things. Like there's a, it's gotten better, but there was a bump here. I used to, I'm kind of a laid back person, and I used to flop my hands down on the table all the time. And a couple of years ago, I had to stop doing it, because there was a bone there that started slamming, a bone emerged there that started slamming on. If I did that, it would slam onto the table, and there never was a bone there that would slam on the table. That's how come I got in the habit of doing it. I had to quit doing it. Another thing that I had to quit doing is, used to be that knees could not easily bend the other way. And the new anatomy, both knees and elbows can easily overbend and snap the other way. And the old anatomy, that was not easily done. And I don't know if you've noticed, but the last few years there suddenly showed up a lot of creepy videos of people overstressing their arms or legs and having them bend the opposite direction. And I really noticed that with the knees, because I used to just lean all the time on stuff if I couldn't reach. I'm short. So all the time I'm leaning and pushing against knees or whatever to get at stuff like, and I really notice it in my truck because I have these steps to get into my truck. And if I lean and the pressure goes on the top of my knee will actually start to flip immediately with not that much pressure, and it's extremely uncomfortable. And I keep forgetting, I forgot like 10 times because I used to be able to do that for 40 something years with no problemos. And suddenly now if you do it, it's horrible. Because the anatomy is different. So there's this one case where I'm not too fond of the new anatomy, and that's that I got to be really careful about not putting pressure there, because the old cap used to sit, like where the knee bent, the old cap used to sit right there, and it would prevent that. But the new cap is up here, and it no longer stops that from happening. So I don't know, maybe in the end we'll get a better protection against that. But I do feel that the legs and everything operate much more efficiently right now. But that's the one downside that I'm really noticing. All right, so I was looking for osmotial bone. I've not heard of that word, so yeah, it might have been something that was only there for a little while, because I'm not really seeing it. Must include osmotial. Might have been a temporary timeline thing. Sounds like a good name, though. Brain folds look like intestines. They are so big. I remember them being much thinner. Yep, they were small, and they were like the intestines. They had their, like, wrinkles were unique to the individual. They are now bigger, and they are somewhat universal now. Yeah, it was small. That's right. That we're talking about the cerebellum, I assume. Maybe that's why the population is so derpy now. I don't know. I definitely have times when there's an intense brain fog on me, and then there's other times when I'm fine. So I don't think that's brain morphology, because otherwise I should be stupid the entire time, not just some of the time. So maybe just the shifts and everybody trying to adapt. And some people are going to adapt and some aren't. I would definitely say that left brain is harder than it used to be. So luckily I was pretty strong in the left brain department always. So even if I lose a bunch of it, I still have enough left over to function. But maybe if you were always kind of weak in the left brain department and then you lose, 50% of that, that's really bad. But I'm not sure if that's going to be totally permanent, or once we get our new morphology sorted out, and our new thought processes sorted out, we might do better. That's one of the reasons why I wonder why we have to have the C thing. Maybe, people, we're going through such a heavy shift right now. People are all discombobulated. There's people complaining about intense brain fog and all these problems. They can blame it on the C now. The stress, the 2020 is horrible. I can't concentrate. They've got a giant excuse. Some people can stay home now that would have had to work. So maybe that's why we have to have it, because if all of this stuff happened and everybody brain wouldn't work right, and you talk to all your friends and all your friends said, oh my God, my brain is toast, and there was no excuse for it, people would panic. I mean, now whenever you feel weird, you're just, it's the stress of, 2020. So there's another thing that the C might be good for. Basically, it's a giant excuse for almost anything now. It's an excuse for like thousands of changes and any bad feelings or weird feelings or confusion you may have, any changes in time perception you may have, excuse for a lot of people leaving the timeline or having weird symptoms, like every symptom in the entire universe. And like we said, we've noticed that a lot of the C symptoms just happen to be very similar to symptoms we've been talking about for shift sickness for years now, loss of taste, brain fog, tinnitus, those kind of things. We've seen that the lungs are very different than they used to be, 4 or 5 years ago themselves. So then you add, we've got the changes up in here. So maybe people are getting really sick in lung function and up in here and stuff. And it has to do with the shifts. You got the C, but it's just shift sickness. I'm not really sure. And maybe some people can't make that shift. Maybe it's just too hard for some people. At least the shift to where I'm going, maybe some people can't go. And maybe where other people went, I can't go. I'm pretty sure little finger is down and separate from other fingers. Yeah. Oh, yeah, we've talked about that before. That finger used to start up here, parallel to the other fingers. And so then it would be up higher because it started parallel. Now it's like this. This finger way down here, it used to be more like here, shorter and high and closer to the other fingers, this thumb. Now it's way out here, but it used to be more like in there. Hopefully, let's see, can you see it? I need to put it right here in front of my face. There. Hyperextended. Yeah, hyperextended, that's the word. It did not used to be easy to do, hyperextension. You could pop your kneecap out, but then you would and that would be the cap itself would go bloop, and then you would pop it back in, but you wouldn't actually hyperextend your knee. Hyperextension is freaking easy now. You got to be careful. Bedridden for 30 days. Yeah, because it just so happens that the steps on my truck, if I lean, and the truck is really high because it's lifted 4 inches and it has extra large tires. So, and then I'm short. So I'm reaching into the truck trying to get stuff. So one downside of that tall truck is that if I leave stuff on the shotgun seat and then I jump out, I can't reach unless I go all the way around, or it pushes right above my knee. The steps will push right in there. So I've had to really learn my lesson not to do that. Seems like the hand changes are for holding cell phones. I don't know. I do believe that this is a more effective system than the old. You have a better palming ability. This finger's longer. It has more of an opposable angle than it used to have. I remember one guy a couple years ago said he could palm a basketball that he couldn't before, but then with the newer, longer thumb, he could just do it. He just made the hop over from being able to not being able to being able to. So, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. For holding cell phones. I'm sure it's good for practically anything. It's probably great for typing, come to think of it. We will get what they allow us to have and nothing more. Yeah, but who's in charge of the morphology changes, are they making the morphology changes? I think that this might be part of natural evolution. It's just that we assume that evolution was Darwin style over millions of years, and it's not. It's, I think it's our birthright. I just don't think everybody is going to be able to make it. It's hard going for some of us. Graham for the exam for calculus. That was my brain going la la. Why can't we go? I don't know. It's just my theory. I don't know. I'm not telling you I know what's going on, but I tend to follow somewhat, or at least my favorite theory is kind of the one where you go to the timelines that you resonate with. So there's going to be a lot of splits, and if you don't fit, if that's not the right timeline, then you aren't going to go there. You just don't fit in with that timeline. So, and if you look at the Dolores canon predictions where she actually predicted the Mandela Effect before it was a thing, like way back. And she said that there's going to be kind of an overall split between timelines. There'll be the negative, hateful, selfish, and it may be even extremely fearful. And that's why I'm very much trying to say don't fall victim to intense fear, because I think that might be a bad plan. That group will go one way, and the rest of us will go another way. And maybe some people who couldn't go either way might just like die, and they'll move on to different worlds to finish their education. But there'll be a big split. And so you won't, if you're a positive, kind of good, fairly good person, you're not going to go to the crap timelines. And if you are a sociopath, you won't go to the good timelines once the division is far. But for quite some time, they'll sit on top of each other and slowly split. So you're still going to see everybody from both timelines. You're going to see each other. And I do think that might be what we're seeing now. We're just seeing more and more division between people. I mean, people I know that were just, fairly okay people, maybe a little naggy, a little irritating, have turned into total Karens. Like obnoxious, complaining, just belittling others. It's like that little bit of behavior that they had has just exploded, and I've seen other people go the reverse. It's like they're just, you're being forced, whatever is inside of you is getting forced out, and it's hard, you either deal with your negativity or it takes you over right now. There's no more sweeping a bunch of crap under the rug, and I think that's why it's hard, because I look at some people I know that are really positive, nice people, and it might be a lot easier for them, this thing, I mean, I'm not a bad person, but I'm not like the really nice people that a couple people are, and so that might be why it's harder for me. I'm stubborn, and I have my selfish side. And I mean, I'm definitely not a sociopath or anything. I think I'm probably good enough to get to the good timeline, but I'll probably have to work a little harder than some people. So that might be why it's a little harder on me. I think Russia's improved a lot. I only good experience with Russians. They're not villainous if you show them respect. They're friendly and intelligent and humorous people. Well, we in America were always taught Russia this, Russia that. I know I did growing up in the 70s because of the Cold War, Russia, right? But when I got a little older, I realized it was basically just, the government decisions that we disagreed with. And now I don't even know how much any of that was true. I mean, we only have our government's word for what their government is doing. And do we really trust our government so much? But I saw lots of shows on like the regular people. And, they have their culture, but they're overall not that different than any other people's. They tend to be a little bit more straight spoken. They're not going to beat around the bush, kind of think like New York style. They're not going to cherry coat stuff. But, they're also know how to have a good time, and they're regular people. They weren't mean people or anything. It was kind of, I remember that's one thing that I learned when I was about 12 is I watched some shows on the Russian people, and I was like, oh, they're like regular people, because we're kind of brainwashed to think otherwise, But yeah, I mean, and I've heard people say that if they go to like Muslim countries and stuff, it's the same. They're nice to you. They're very much giving you food, and I've heard that Muslims are their culture is famous for really good quality humor, stuff like that. You never hear about that stuff, So yeah, the government, I certainly wouldn't want to be judged by what our politicians are doing, Please don't judge the average American by our politicians, please. I know we can be obnoxious, but we're not that bad. and maybe extend the same politeness to the other countries, you know? Just looked at the lungs yesterday. Yeah, I was looking at them. I haven't seen any huge changes in them lately, but from way back, they're definitely shorter. They've got more lobes. They're no longer symmetrical, and they have a lot of space in between them. They used to be like smooshed up almost next to each other, but now there's like a big void space in between, which seems to be filling up with other stuff. So anyway, yeah, I never had a beef with the Russian pipples. And I've met some, and they seem cool. Like, kind of like New Yorkers without the accent. I mean, if you grow up in a country that's kind of, like, harsh, it does change you, you know. But then you learn how to have a good time with small stuff, and you appreciate what you have. So there's benefits to it. You can deal with problems because you're used to dealing with problems. So one little problem comes up, you can handle it because this is not a big problem, you know. I hope I can enter a timeline where we can think more clearly. Morality is opinion. You know, just concentrate on what you want to see, which is more positivity and people doing well. And, you know, I do think some of this brain fog might be because of the split and the changes. It's just going to be hard on everybody. You're basically turning up. You're basically, all of your crap is being shoved out into the front. You know, so emotions are running high. And you're either going to deal with those emotions and handle them and work on them because now they're out in front of your face and you have no choice, or you're not and you're going to like lose your cookies, you know. So I find myself having to hold back my anger. I definitely have times when I'm irrationally irritable. So the trick is going to be to go in there and really look at what's causing that anger. You know, what things from your childhood, really analyze it. Because you can't really just stop it. You got to get to the root of it. And that's why it's out there. What if we're left behind and assigned to deal with a mess? You know, all I can say is none of the predictions, the spiritualists, or anything I've seen says that that's how it would work. Because it's like a resonance thing. You just automatically are shunted to where your resonance fits and where you resonate. And you can't stay in crap land if you don't have the right resonance for the crap land. So I wouldn't spend a lot of time worrying about it. Anger is there to motivate you. You know, if it's the kind of anger where you're yelling at people who don't deserve it or mad at people who didn't do much, I would say that no, you don't need that to motivate you. And if it's the kind of like determination, you know, like that's it, you know, where you stick to things, that's a little bit different word than anger, I would say. I mean, there's subtleties in emotions, you know. I figure anger is probably good for something. That's why we have it. So you can't be afraid of it, but at the same time, you don't want to be run by it. There's like a balance, like a Zen balance where emotions and your logical mind are in tune. They both can operate together. And that's like a really powerful place. If you can get to there, you can get a lot done. If you're angry but your logic's not working, you're not going to be very effective. But especially if you're angry and like being mean and stuff, you know, but if that anger channels to like a determination and a stick-to-itiveness, and it's coupled with other good emotions, you know, kindness and stuff, then I think it can be extremely effective as a motivator. So I guess the answer is it depends. That's my feel anyway. What's online with all these wild animals saving humans? Like a whole world-changing event is setting this off. Yeah, animals are just like way smarter. For years now we've been hearing like animals coming to humans for help. This raccoon's got a jar stuck on its head. Apparently in this timeline, jars get stuck on heads all the time. And they come to humans now. I don't know, the first time I saw that, I thought it was the weirdest thing, but and I have yet to see that in real life. So I don't know how much they're trying to program that into reality. I've yet to see an animal come to me and say, hey, look, human, can you take this burr out of my back or whatever? That has not happened to me. Oh, need input, got your channel locked. Yeah, you got to be sneaky with your anger. You'll notice that I don't put any of that stuff in my keywords or anything, because I know YouTube is getting really bad, and until BitChute can really take off, or one of those can really take off, they've gotten ridiculous. They don't even, even if you're totally abiding by the terms of service, they don't care anymore. They'll just do whatever they want. So, yep, I'm just got to be more sneaky. I'm the stealth bomber complainer about the sea and stuff. Well, animals are smarter while humans get stupider. Yeah, yeah. See, that's the thing. I keep seeing all this stuff online about these genius animals. I have yet to see any of it in real life. My current cat is probably not any smarter than previous cats. I didn't feel like my dog got any smarter when she was older than when she was younger. So I'm not sure. There's all these pet animals that didn't exist for me, like fennec fox. And there's definitely a lot more wild animals that are very tameable, but I have yet to see a fennec fox, pet in real life. So maybe those are still incubating. Q stuff is getting wiped. Yeah, Q stuff's getting wiped. A lot of people have mixed emotions about Q. They seem to be getting kind of more and more wacky in their theories. And now, like, every conspiracy theory is getting, like, the media is combining that up with Q. So basically, the less crazy sounding conspiracy theories, like anti-lockdowns, are getting associated with Q, and then Q, of course, is being associated with violent, angry behavior, and so that's not really good for the rest of the conspiracy theories either. Everything is being lumped together with the Q. And, I don't want to be mean to Q people, but I have gone on the Q forums, and they are extremely hateful. So there is some argument there about just like, because their basic attitude is like that all the Democrats are like, pedophile, blood drinking, evil people that all should be killed, and or at least put in jail. And I don't think they really have the evidence that they're that much worse than, say, a bunch of Republicans personally. So and then anybody who doesn't agree with Republicans basically then gets lumped into the same category. You can't, like, question anything, no matter how ridiculous it is, or you're like one of them. Have you always known cockroaches to fly? I have known that there were some flying cockroaches. I know Hawaii had them. Do they all fly now? Because if they all fly, that's baloney. Oh. American cockroaches are wingless and capable of flight in the nymph stage. Adults have useful wings and can fly for short distances. That is baloney. That is total baloney. If they start from a high place, such as a tree, they can glide for some distance. However, despite their ability to do so, American cockroaches aren't regular flyers. Yeah, because they're new at it. That's a good find. American cockroaches never flew. What was the other ridiculous thing that flew now was, I think that was, pincher bugs. Pincher bugs fly now. I think it was pincher bug. I'm pretty sure it was pincher bug. They had to have fold-out wings, too. I'm pretty sure that was pinchers. Let me look that up again. Because if you look at a pincher bug, there's no room for the wing, right? There's no freaking way. So how can a pincher bug fly? So they have fold-out wings now. I've yet to see a pincher bug fly, and they're all over the place. Why would you have a wing if you never fly? I think eventually we'll start seeing them flying along with the roaches. Luckily, in my current location out in the country, country living usually doesn't have a lot of roaches. They're kind of a city problem. See if I can find those. So let's see. We can have a big. Here we go. So here it is. This is the pincher bug. Those are not the juicy, fat, pinchy wings, pinchy pinchers that I'm accustomed to seeing. But okay, so here it is. So now they have these little caps, and then the wing like unfurls out of there. So normal bugs, you have the wing over the back, but that's how they were able to suddenly have wings now, is because they have these unfurling wings here. Hind wings. So pinchers and now cockroaches. Ugh, gross. Totally gross. Thank God I don't have cockroaches. I make up with it. I make up for it by thousands of pinch bugs and silverfish. I don't know how the silverfish got here, but so cockroaches in Hawaii always flew. Neat info. Yeah, I know the earwigs. I know. And the other thing with earwigs is in my original timeline, they could not pinch hard enough to pinch people, but they can draw blood in this timeline. And I was looking at them suspiciously a couple years ago because the pinchers got a lot bigger than I remembered. And I used to just grab them with my fingers and throw them outside. And then after the Mandela, I knew a lot of insects changed. So I was looking at them and going, those pinchers look really large. So I started picking them up with like a piece of tissue or something instead of directly grabbing them, because I was a little worried that they had gotten stronger. And they have. They can draw blood now. And so apparently, yes, they can fly. When did I see that? Like a year ago that they could fly. We need a t-shirt, Eva t-shirt. That's baloney. I don't know. Or that's weird. Chickens, I think, have improved their flying, definitely. But they could kind of fly. They were like, they could flutter. Chickens are tricky because the wild ones could fly better than the domestic ones, because the domestic ones just, they had weak wings because they were locked up. Then you've got peacocks. Peacocks could never fly good. Now they can haul butt. They used to be able to hop like up onto a roof, but now they can fly across a lake. That's like an older one, a couple years ago one I saw. So yeah, American cockroaches. Let me just see if do California cockroaches fly? Because I know California cockroaches did not fly. California cockroaches fly, because they did it. My mom, when she was in Guam, she was flipping out about the flying cockroaches. And one time I visited her and one flew at her and she like screamed. And I was laughing so hard. I remember that, and because they don't fly here in California, and they didn't fly in Wisconsin where she came from, and Chicago area, they didn't fly. So she, wasn't used to that baloney. The Turkestan roach, capable of powered and directed flight, but they are weak flyers. We've got a whole bunch of new unpleasant insects lately in SoCal. The Aedes mosquito is the one that's really on my radar. I complained before about the ants biting me. They've really chilled out about the biting. I went through like a timeline where they were biting the crap out of me. So I was like, yay, I'm out of the super bitey ant timeline. But this year, this Aedes mosquito came, and they say they're new, and they are horrible. One skeeter bites. They're super fast. You can't slap them dead easily. I've been trying to slap. I've only gotten one of them so far dead. They sneak around by your legs so you can't see them, and when they bite, it swells up and itches like I can't believe. Normal skeeters they only itch a little, and if you keep your hands off them, it's not bad. But these ones just start itching immediately. It's like 2 days worth of itching packed into 20 minutes. I mean, so you go out and you get bit up like 35 bites. It's like freaking Guam. When I was in Guam, I got bit that much, but they didn't itch like these ones do. The other day I was out and I got like 35 bites. I was practically dancing around with itch, and I just poured alcohol all over my legs. It's insanity. We never had a problem, and they're day biters. So in the daytimes when you want to go out, So that's my new complaint. I got rid of the bitey ants. Now I want the bitey ants back if I can get rid of those Aedes mosquitoes, because I'm hoping that they'll chill out. I've noticed that new insect species that come here, the first year, there'll be a huge ton of them. I don't know if when the Mandela animal shows, they have to, like, the universe makes a breeding population right from the start, so they pack a ton of them in. Like when the fuzzy caterpillars came here the first year, there was just a ridiculous horde of them. And now you just see one or two once in a while. So I'm hoping that the Aedes mosquitoes next year will just be one or two of them and not this ridiculous population that we have. I mean, how can a newcomer that just came here have so many? I mean, it does not fit logic. It fits Mandela logic, but it doesn't fit conventional logic. What roaches fly? Man, I feel itchy just thinking about those Aedes mosquitoes. And I'm a person that mosquitoes usually don't bite. I don't have type O blood, which supposedly they're saying now, which I've never heard before, mosquitoes prefer. For some species. Not all roaches have wings, but many do. All right, so I don't know. That one, that one's a tricky one, because I think I don't know if those new roaches look that much different from the old roaches, but they're saying the new roaches fly. It's a little fishy, but anyway, the ones in Hawaii, they use their wings a ton, those roaches. If you try to slap them, they're more than happy to fly. And they're dumb, so they'll fly up and they'll like land on you and stuff. That's why my mom screamed, because she was trying to kill it and it goes bzzz, and just lands right on her. That's why she screamed. But they didn't. I mean, I don't know if they bite now. They didn't then. If I see a cockroach fly, I'm running and staying inside. Yeah. I want to hear Need Input scream when the cockroach comes after him. Don't go to Hawaii. Or, no, it was Guam. I'm not sure about Hawaii, actually. It was Guam that they were flying. I have to say it was a little creepy, but my thing was I was really scared of the hornets. I'm more scared of the stuff that bites, but I've gotten rid of a lot of my phobia, but those are the ones that I like the least. If it flies but it doesn't bite, that's not so bad. I've noticed a new take on the tinnitus, from a piercing whine to a widening like a tunnel, ending in a broader perception like echolocation. I'm not sure I know what that means. I know there's a lot of different tones I can hear. It seems like it gets more and more of them over time. What about no-see-ums? No-see-ums did not used to bite. I've covered that one before. No-see-ums, that might be like a really early Mandela, because I don't remember no-see-ums being here. And then at some point, like 10 or 15 years ago, there were tons of them. And then we had this one year where they're like, oh, the no-see-ums are taking over because of, perfect conditions or something. They didn't bite then. They were harmless. And they would go in these clusters all the time. I don't see the clusters anymore, but they say that no-see-ums bite, and that was like last year's Mandela, that they bite. I don't think I've been bitten by a no-see-um, though, so I don't know if I've got the biting ones directly in my timeline or what. I don't recall getting bitten by anything like that. Oh, you don't have skeeters in New Zealand, huh? Lucky dog. I mean, New Zealand would be nice if they didn't lock their border. The blood type O is 80% immune for C virus. I'll have to look up. I've seen some mumbling that they've theorized, but I don't know if they've really got the data for it. So, then you kind of wonder on those. I've never really even heard of a virus preferring a blood type. So, like, the skeeter thing prefers blood type. I've never even heard of that until just recently. It does definitely open up some room for more conspiracy theories. Targeted viruses, basically. I mean, this is a stretch, and I really don't know, but, like, say there's a bloodlines that want to wipe out, other bloodlines. How would you do it? Targeted viruses. But even so, a lot of people with other blood types survive, so. My right leg was bit by these tiny gnats in Florida. It took several days to heal. Was it super itchy? I wonder if you got those 80s. Mosquito. They look like gnats when they fly, because they don't make a whiny noise. They don't go up by your head. They're tiny, and they really just look like gnats. But then when they land, they look more mosquito-like when they land. But you'd almost never see them. They're so sneaky. Florida. Oh yeah, you got them. Aedes aegypti. The Aedes aegypti is invasive to southern Florida. What happens for me is they bite me, and it itches like the bejesus, like very quickly, within minutes. But within about 20 to 30 minutes, it'll go back down and stop itching. I might feel like I want to scream for those 20 or 30 minutes, but after that, I'm fine. I did notice that my coworker has a welt for 2 days, so she doesn't. I've actually never had a mosquito bite go away so fast, but I've certainly never had it itch so fast and so bad. So it's like I get all the itch within like a very short period of time. Okay, so yes, you have the 80s, and they're invasive. So this is according to this timeline. Estimated potential rate of 80s 2017. So yeah, you're screwed. That might have been an 80s. If it itched a lot and it was around your legs. New terminology, ankle biter mosquitoes. That's what they're calling them. Never heard of it. There seems to be a new organ where the nasal cavity and throat meet, or a one. Yes, we covered that earlier in the show. Yeah, look up Aedes aegypti if you're having ankle bite problems. One of my friends was complaining about that. It's hard to find out what's biting you because you just see the bites and the itchy, and it took me a long time to actually get my eye on one of the things causing it. They're so incredibly sneaky, and if you just twitch a little, like you just move a little, they leave. It's like, I don't know, they're like psychic or something. They can tell. The way I got mine was I put up both my legs up on, I had my chair up and I put them up on the table so that I could see both of my legs while I was typing on the computer. And I kept looking over at my legs to see if anything was getting on them. And then finally one of them landed on there and I was able to smack that one. But usually when I attempted to get them, itchy gnat bugs. Yeah, they're tiny. I think you've got 80s. And the bite itches really bad. And they're like they look like gnats, and they're down by the lower half of your body. They don't go up by your face. They like to stay low. They're like stealth bombers. They fly around like little harmless gnats. And then they land. And then they look like mosquitoes when they land. 80s, yeah. Aedes aegypti. These are them. Aegypti. Aegypti. Oh, and I haven't heard about this albopictus. Aedes albopictus. I haven't heard about that locally, but yes, they suck. I'm hoping we'll get, a few more shifts and they'll calm down a little. Oh yeah, the ironclad beetle. I haven't covered that one yet, but it's coming up. That one has been spreading around. Yeah, my friend for like months was like, what's biting me? What's biting me? Because you can't see them. You just see the bites, and it was from being outside, but she thought it was something in the grass for a while. They can breed in tiny amounts of water very quickly. So like just the water in the bottom of your potted plant is enough for them to breed. The old skeeters that we had would need like a bigger, more fresh water supply that was a little more reliable. But these things can breed in just like a tiny, tiny bit of water. So they're just extra obnoxious. All right. Okay, this one is an older one from Noetic. Do you guys remember Dumbo? Remember Dumbo thought he could fly because of the feather, right? That famous story. What color was the feather? And no cheating, no looking, just from memory. What color do you remember the feather being? And this one is from Noetic. And the last one that I just discussed was from Omega Constant. Found that one. I don't know where it originally came, but that's where I saw it on Retcon, so good job. All right, so Noetic's one. What color was Dumbo's feather? Then I will go on to a different one. All right, and now I'm going to talk about the thumbnail. So I've been covering the Nazca lines thing for a while. Well, now there's a whole nother batch of Nazca lines. Again, apparently this timeline loves Nazca lines. So this is the old Nat lines here. Wait, I gotta find a better one. This one sucks. Oh, that one sucks too. My new hand played the piano so much better and easy. Yeah, that makes sense because that finger could reach. I kind of seemed like I had some trouble with my typing for a while, and I'm thinking maybe the reach of the fingers was changing. Pink. We got one vote for pink. Could be white, but not blue or purple. Maybe yellow. Oh, I hadn't even seen that one. I'm just going to click on this one really quick. Drones cast new light on mystery of Nazca. I have not seen this one. The new ones strangely remind me of, they look contemporary more. Not all of them, but they just look like something out of anime, a lot of them. This is one I saw. Okay, so they're saying that it looks like this, but with their new technology, they realize it's this. Even this, though, if you flew over and saw this, you're going to be like, But some of these, even more obviously, I can't see them not having found them before now. Maybe not this one. So this one's really weird because it looks like this snake thing is eating a man, and then it goes out its butt, and it comes out as this blob thing. So that's like a pretty bizarre concept. Here's another one. See, now this, if you flew over and saw this, you're going to know that that is something. You may not be sure exactly, but I can't see how they didn't know that that was a Nazca line. But so they're saying the shape is like that. Here's another one of the new ones right here. Looks like a shaman. Oh, I haven't seen this one. And so that funky cat that I put up, it was also one of the new ones. Haven't seen that one yet. Monkey. I don't know what that is. Let's try like that. Oh no, that pretty much covers it. Is that really one of them? I'm not... Is that really one of them? I'm not sure if this is one of them. I have not seen that one. I'm skeptical on this one because I'm not seeing it somewhere else. Because that would be a trip if that was one. All right, I'm going to click on this just to see if this is legit. Or if it's just a clickbait from before it's news. Because that one is pretty extreme there. I have not seen that one. Can't find that page. Okay, I'm a little skeptical on that one. Nice concept, but all right, so this cat, it just looks like a kindergartner drew this cat. It's got like a dinosaur tail and like this kindergartner face. Was it a pet? I don't know. These new ones have these weird bug eyes and bug mouths. Bugged out mouths. See, there's another one with the bug eyes and the bugged out mouths. This one I can see, you couldn't quite see. But some of these I think you would have had to see. Like this one. I mean, you can tell that that's something there. There's no way they're flying over that and not realizing that that's some old Nazca line there. We've covered before that way back, I don't remember the alien dude. That one's the last couple years. Here's another cat one with the bug eyes. Apparently they like these dinosaur tail cats. Okay, there's another one of those, but they're all coming from Pinterest, and Pinterest is not the most reliable source. I'm not sure if this one is in process, because it seems to me if this was a legit one, it would be like on the front page of all of them. So I think the jury's still out on this one, if this is like going to be one of the new ones or not. Maybe in some timelines, there's this one. So there's supposed to be like 144 new ones, and I have not seen 144 accounted for on here yet. So it seems like it's kind of the same 20 over and over again. So I think we're going to basically be seeing a pus load of new Nazca lines. I don't know what it's going to mean, but there was one that was really weird smiley face one. Let me see if I can find that. There's no way that they flew over these for all the attention that Nazca got for centuries. And we've had flight for a really long time. So I just can't see that we didn't know about these. Dang, now I can't. There's one that looked really weird. And it was basically like this face that was very geometric, like this, with the bug eyes, and then this like hair sticking straight up. It looked very contemporary. These cat ones look kind of contemporary, the concepts behind them. These ones, they just look more like how we think of monkeys now. Alright, let me just try see if I can put face in there. Face. Of course, now I can't find it. But yeah, that one looked even especially weird. Now I can't find it. Of course, it was like, there was like 20 examples of it on earlier today. I'm going to do the same search I did earlier today and see if the same stuff comes up. You wouldn't think the algorithms for YouTube would have changed so rapidly that stuff that I typed in earlier today would not yield the same results, but there it is. You can't find it. All right, well, anyway, I cry uncle on that. Let's go over here and see what you guys think about. Yeah, all the shapes of the countries and states are so different. Eric von Daniken flew so many times over Nazca, and he didn't see that. Yeah, thousands and thousands of people have been scouring Nazca. There's just no way. Some of these maybe were vague enough, but some of them obviously could have been seen. Somebody's making these in paint. Well, I don't know. Supposedly they checked them out, and they're just scraped. But yeah, you know, I don't know. Did somebody sneak over there and scrape them? I don't know. I've noticed geoglyphs showing up all over, though. But yeah, you got to wonder how you know it's old. It's just rocks. Anybody could scrape them. Somebody thinks it might have had more... I don't know. For me, Nazca was a short word, so I'm going to say that I think it was Nazca. But, you know, timelines vary, so... Andorra is rather new. Yep, Andorra is new. Red. Okay, so colors of the colors of the feather: red. I think only one person got it. Was it Preliminal who said it was black? The feather was black. I remember it being white. I think it looks really strange as a black feather, because it doesn't really look like a feather now. It looks like a stick or something. But I remember it being white. But yeah, he had a black feather now. See, it doesn't really look feather-like now. I don't know what it looks like, but... white was always the stereotypical color of a feather, and they didn't have very much. For me, it was a white feather. So that one came from Noetic, and let's see what we got. Nazca lines. Okay, what color was Osiris, the Egyptian god of death? Osiris. What color was Osiris? This one might be an old one for at least some timelines, because I actually saw this on an old video, and I was laughing. And I will give credit to where I saw it in an old video, but so some of you who saw that video might remember that. So Osiris, god of death, what color was that? All right, now I'm going to dig up this old American map, because this is a really weird one for those of you who like to follow Atlantis. Bet you didn't know about this. I just saw this one. All these weird old maps with old weird stuff are showing up in this timeline, and I'm just like laughing on some of these. And this was on a bunch of old maps too. 16 somethings to 1705, and I'm not sure which all maps had this. Let me see if I can find one that shows it clearly. Atlantis Insula. So Atlantis Insula shows up on old maps. Atlantis Insula means Island of Atlantis. Insula is island. All right, so what shows up? It shows up on old maps. Atlantis Insula, Island of Atlantis. And what is it? That's the funny part, okay? And I've said before that the myth of Atlantis has changed a lot for me, because it used to be like an island with some rings around it, and now it's like a whole continent. It's this big thing. All right, let me see if I can, let's see, find it on here. This one has it with an AE. As I've mentioned before, I don't remember AEs and everything, like pedophile, but apparently AE is surviving heavily in this timeline. I don't really even remember seeing AEs before 10 years ago. Okay, Atlantitis, and sometimes it's Atlantitis, and sometimes it's just Atlantis, and sometimes it's Atlanticus, and sometimes it's Insulae, and sometimes it's Insula, but it all means Atlantic Island. So Atlantic Island in these old maps is the freaking northern United, North America. It's North America. On these old maps, Atlantis, Island of Atlantis is North America. It's hard for my brain to say it out loud, okay? Look, this map is even called Atlantis Insula. And it's North America. This is North America here. And this is when I said before how some of these old funky maps show California as an island down here, which is also pretty bizarre. Or maybe California is more up here, but basically it shows a big fat island over here. And now that's a big fat peninsula. And I might add one that keeps growing as we shift. It wasn't like a giant freaking peninsula in old timelines. Florida's shrunk, and all of the material is showing up over here on the west coast of Mexico. But so these old maps are showing that as an island, and they're calling North America the Island of Atlantis on a ton of these maps. This one's from 1705. I don't know. Is North America going to be the Island of Atlantis? How could we be hunting for Atlantis for, decades, and it being such a big deal? And here on all these maps, it says that America is it, and nobody was talking about that. Explain to me this. I mean, were you in a timeline where anybody ever mentioned that it's on the map that we are at freaking Atlantis? Look, and notes the Americas as the mythical land of Atlantis. Have you ever heard of that crap? Because that's freaking ridiculous. Map depicts the Americas with California shown as an island. Yeah, we're Atlantis now, guys. Hello. And you know, all this weird stuff showing up in North America, so maybe we'll get some cool crap, some Atlantis crap. I don't know. But this is a trip. The Atlantis Insula thing puts Tartaria into perspective. Well, yeah, now Tartaria wasn't even an empire in my old timeline. Now we've got all these cool buildings. Palace of Fine Arts comes up all the time as a thing for Tartaria. And, that has totally changed. I've said many times. I used to go there all the time as a child. And the timeline and the history and the renovations and stuff on the Palace of Fine Arts is totally different in this timeline. It's stuff's turning Tartarian that wasn't Tartarian. That stuff, my old timeline, it didn't fit the bill for Tartaria. Now it does. So we're getting Tartaria backwards in time, and America apparently is turning into Atlantis. So that could be some cool stuff. We might find some cool stuff here. America used to be the boring lands when it came to stuff like ruins and things, because we didn't have diddly squat. Insula is still an island in my language. Yeah, I don't know, what is that? Probably like Latin that we're looking at. And so, Latin is spread into lots of languages. Isla in Spanish. Osiris was black, as far as I remember, as a statue. That's what I remember, black. I'll go back a little bit. North Dakota Pyramid, Fort Ransom. North Dakota Pyramid, Fort Ransom. Let's go there. So anyway, I thought that was pretty cool. Will North America become the new old Atlantis? This bizarre roadside attraction in North Dakota is a mystery. Well, let's see. Yeah. What's the... Oh, okay, so there's a funky hill, a Viking statue. Some refer to as the Black Viking, was added in 1972 to sit on top of the 100-foot hill as a guarding blah, 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 blah. Scientists suggest it's a naturally formed hill. Others, however, believe it may be one of the oldest man-made pyramids in the world. Some think it may be an ancient burial mound. Dum, dum, dum. Well, I don't know. Is there any... Knowing this timeline, something cool might come out of this. I mean, if it was the old days, I would just go, well, who the heck knows? Who can tell a man-made pile from 200 years ago from a natural-made pile from 200 years ago? It'd be pretty hard. It's not the world's biggest pile. But, yeah, who knows in this timeline? Anything that's pyramid-shaped in this timeline should be inspected with interest. I have actually been watching, because we've got some hills around here that, in my opinion, are slowly getting more pyramid-shaped. They're getting more symmetrical, and I keep thinking, I'm like, in 20 years, is that going to turn out to be some cool pyramid? We're not that far from Mexico. It's possible. And they did find, in this timeline, they have a monster pyramid that was found under dirt in Mexico. So it doesn't even seem that weird now. All right, so yeah, preliminary members, the black feather. The Gulf of Mexico was way more open, definitely. Cuba was way tinier. And it was easily identified as part of the Atlantic Ocean. Yeah, protected waterways. Everything's turning to protected waterways from what I can tell. Lemuria, as far as I've heard, has been another name for Atlantis. Could be. Lemuria versus... I'll tell you, Lemuria, I've only heard of that as having to do with Mount Shasta. And I don't know where it came from. Lemuria versus Atlantis. Lemuria and Atlantis. The lost civilizations of Lemuria and Atlantis became reality. The lost continents revealed. So supposedly Lemurians live under Mount Shasta. Or did, or still do. Is what I heard. And when that first showed up, maybe 15 years ago, because I'm in the rock hounding field, and they were saying that these quartz crystals were Lemurian, and I was like rolling my eyes really hard on that, because they're just normal shapes of quartz crystals that I'd known about from multiple locations. And then they started saying they were Lemurian, and then they would get like $20 a piece for them instead of like $2 a piece. And I'm like, is this some kind of marketing ploy? And now there's this whole thing. You know, when I was a kid, we used to go up to Mount Shasta to vacation, and there was never any of this stuff. I've never heard of it until about 15 years ago. So, you know, and the hippie thing and the new age thing isn't that new. So I'm not sure if that was in my timeline or what, but I've only heard of the Lemurians living under Mount Shasta. 14,000 years ago, the culture known as Lemuria was thriving. There were also other cultures on Earth, such as Atlantis, which were thriving as well. The holy people of the prophets at the time began to realize that something was changing. The shift they were referring to is what you call the Great Flood, also known as the destruction of Atlantis. Well, it seems like they're saying the Lemurians were a different culture than the Atlanteans. How does that fit in with the Tartarians and the Mongolians? I don't know. Maybe they'll come up and say that they were another word for one of them's. I think we're just going to have to wait until it shakes out a little bit. The actual physical proof of this is the pyramids of the Mayans, Incas, and Aztecs. So are they saying that the Mayans, Incas, and Aztecs were the Lemurians? Okay. Well, that area seems to be an area that was not Tartaria. So maybe Atlantis was North America. Lemuria was South America. So during the flood, Lemuria went underground. Yeah, so Lemuria could be South America, Atlantis, North America, and then like Tartaria was over there by China and Russia. But they're saying that the Tartarians came here, so maybe they kicked some Atlantis butt. I don't know. Who knows? Well, I think we're going to just have to wait and see how it shakes out. Stuff's showing up all the time now. I never heard of that. For me, Lemuria was ancient, more ancient than Atlantis. You know, it's constantly changing. Like I said, for me, the Atlantis myth has changed quite a bit. Cuba is huge, yep. And Florida has really shrunk down. I heard about Lemuria less than a year ago. Yeah, it was just Mount Shasta for me. The Lemurians lived under Mount Shasta, and they were aliens. So they were aliens that lived under Mount Shasta. And there's been a lot of yammer that they were like interdimensionals and stuff. So I never actually heard of it as a whole civilization before. The whole concept that it was a whole civilization is rather new to me. I'd only heard about them, you know, being this kind of one area under Mount Shasta. Lemurians planted the crystals for us to find. See, the thing is, those crystal shapes that they showed, you can find those all over the world. You can't really tell Lemurian crystals from crystals found in other. I know there's a certain shapes that they look for, but you can find those shapes in other places. It's basically that they took a shape of quartz crystal that we've always known about and said the Lemurians did it. But Shasta has a lot of crystals and stuff, but so does a lot of other places. So, I don't know. Who knows? Maybe we'll find out it's true. I mean, I don't think it was in my old timeline, but anything can happen. And anything can happen in this timeline. I want to meet these aliens if they're here, though, because I mean, how much is this just weird timeline stuff? I mean, are we really going to ever meet these aliens or whatever they are, or is it just more of the myth, that the storyline of this timeline? Are there really like sentient creatures, or is it just to keep us entertained, the timelines, the storylines, to keep us, you know, paying attention or something? Okay, so where are we? All right, so only one person knows what Osiris, well, remembers what Osiris looked like. All right, in this timeline, Osiris is green. Osiris. I should have just typed Osiris, but yeah, Osiris is green now. No, he was black before for me. Green now. So Osiris apparently was the father of another Egyptian god that I think is new and ties in with a lot of interesting current timeline stuff. If I read this right, let me just double check this. I saw this on another channel, but I didn't really check it. So there's another god in the Egyptian timeline called Kek, which just happens to fit in with this whole weird frog, chaos theory, pro-Trump, anti-Democrats thing. There's not much on Kek in here. You'd think there'd be a lot. Kek is the deification of the concept of primordial darkness. Four pairs of deities, four male gods paired with their female counterparts. Kek's female counterpart was Kauket. I don't remember this being the case where like a bunch of gods had female opposites, counterparts. That seems to be a thing now. So apparently there is a Greek god called Kek. I've not heard of, I mean not Greek, Egyptian god called Kek. You'd think there'd be a bunch on this because of the whole Kek frog thing. With the, what do you call that? With the Pepe the Frog and the 4chan. Main article, Pepe the Frog. I'm trying to, I heard somewhere that Osiris is supposed to be the father of Kek. And Osiris turned green, and they didn't remember Osiris being green, and that was on Affected Collective channel. There's a lot of good videos on Affected Collective channel. Unfortunately, that channel doesn't seem to be producing videos anymore. So I don't remember Osiris being green, and I don't remember Kek existing. We've seen other ones like the beetle face, the beetle head god and stuff. Kek. Let me see if I can find an image of Kek. Egyptian god Kek. So, of course, Kek happens to be a frog god. Does he? I'm actually not sure. Is that the real Kek, or is that the Pepe the Frog version? No, I guess he really is a frog god. Let me see. I gotta be careful because... I just think it's interesting. There's a whole group of people basically worshiping the deities of darkness and thinking that's a good thing. You really got to think about that. Egyptians believed that before the world was formed, there was a watery mass of dark, directionless chaos. In this chaos lived Og, Doad of Khmunu, never heard of that, 4 frog gods, and 4 snake goddesses of chaos. I've heard of Amun, but apparently there was also an Amunet, never heard of that. Hey and Howhet, there's Kek and Kauket, gods and goddess of darkness. Kek and Kauket came to represent this darkness. They symbolize obscurity, darkness, and night. Look, Kek is a frog. Okay, so Kek was a frog. Of course, the image is broken. So yeah, anyways, there's a whole bunch of whole weird thing when you look up Pepe the Frog and stuff, and that's what the Affected Collective channel is doing. And you probably check out that video. It's one of the more recent ones they did before they disappeared. But I don't remember there being Kek as an Egyptian god, not to mention matching up with this whole Pepe the Frog thing. And people worshiping the god of darkness in America, like a lot of them, and thinking it's good, and worshiping Trump and the god of darkness, and thinking it's good. Really got to think about that. Okay. Now, here's another one that I've been finding. The last week, I've seen like 3 images of these. Fits all in with the Tartaria thing, of course. It's these giant books. Suddenly, I'm seeing images of these giant books, old books, giant books. The first one I saw, I almost laughed. So apparently, there's all these monster books. I've never seen this before. And there's a ton of them. That they made them this big. What would be the point of making the writing that big? What would be the point? Even if you made a giant book, why would you oink up all the pages with giant writing like that? That's just a pain in the butt. Why don't you just make it, small? They had like ground lenses so you could read a smaller book. No matter how blind you are, that's ridiculous. And especially in the old days when, materials were scarce and ink was scarce and writing with, you had to dip your pen. Now, how many times you can have to dip with that business? It's just a big pain in the pooch. There's no freaking way. They just didn't exist. Look at all these monster books. Look at all of them. That's ridiculous. Of course, it fits right in 300-year-old giant books. Come on, people. Look at all of these things. Fits right in with the giants of Tartaria, of course. Anyway, I saw these images are like coming out of the woodwork of these giant books now. So, okay. You can't make this stuff up, man. You just can't. 4chan creating real. Hey, a whole bunch of people with a lot of emotion, really wanting something on 4chan. And yeah, it's creepy. And I'm hoping they'll go off to their own timeline because Kek represents the chaos which comes into view. Kek represents darkness and chaos. He is the basic definition of the devil. it's there's nothing you can't sugar. They're trying to sugarcoat it by saying he's the bringer of light because he's the darkness before the light, so he brings the light. But he's the darkness. He's the darkness before the light. He's not the one who brings the light. He's the one that comes before the light. That's not a good thing. It's darkness. I don't think you should be worshiping the darkness. I think you really got to watch. Somehow they're trying to twist around that chaos, darkness, and the Egyptian god of the darkness and obscurity is somehow good. And it's more of this double think. War is peace and darkness is light, and being locked down is freedom, and following the rules is freedom, and obedience is freedom. That's all bull. It's not. Keck appeared for me about the time Trump memes became viral. Yeah, exactly. I think they created it, or it was created for them, or that it's all tied up somehow. Yeah, Keck, K-E-K. What about the Beetle head one? Yeah, that one's been on. That's definitely a new one. So anyway, just watch this Pepe the Frog thing, because if you look into it, I just can't see any way you can't interpret that as them worshiping the devil. I'm sorry, but there is just no sugarcoating that. That's what they're doing. They're sugarcoating. They're trying to sugarcoat it, but it's the devil. Whatever the devil is, it ain't good. I don't know if the devil is really exactly what we always assumed it to be, but I don't think it's a good thing. 4chan is basically a pit, it's kind of a cesspool of hatred anyways. I just got a muscle cramp. maybe 4chan's after me. I don't know. It wasn't really bad, but I don't usually get a muscle cramp in my quadriceps, so I was a little surprised. Stretch that muscle out. Like a black hole before a sun. But I don't think a black hole comes before a sun. In the Egyptian mythology, it was the gods that existed before, like when everything was chaos and blackness. They were the gods that ruled. And then when the earth was created and we had light, then they are not the gods of that realm of like light and organization and stuff. I don't think the Egyptian mythology has like the devil and stuff, but basically it fits pretty closely with the Christian concepts of the devil. And if you look at their other stuff, it all fits. And, it's basically built on kind of a concept of hatred and accusation and like that, too. So I don't really think you can really find much positive in that. There's a lot of people that are just angry people right now. And I'm not saying that it's 100% their fault. This world is difficult. A lot of these people didn't have an easy life, but there's a lot of people who had a hard life that didn't turn out like this, and you still in the end choose. You have a lot of angry people, and I remember when I was an angry child that you're resentful of the light. When you're angry, you're resentful of happiness and flowers and things like that, and you either find your way out of that darkness or you stay in it. I do not recommend that you stay in it. It is not a happy place. I think, I have a lot of sympathy for these people because I think I had like definitely 1.5 feet in there when I was a child. My life wasn't that easy. And I know where they're coming from. When you are angry and you're miserable, you resent the light, and that's where these people are coming from. They're worshiping the darkness. But what you want to be doing is trying to find your way out of that. And your way out is not worshiping it. That's not the route to go. Consider that Trump's time in office was plentiful enough, then Keck they created probably started manifesting by now, which would explain the eventfulness. I don't know, I don't know if you can say there's one cause. It's just, I think things are happening the way they gotta happen in some ways, that there's gotta be the split of the dark and the light. That's what I think. I'm really not 100% on it, but I think that this might be it. You've got the Keck worshippers and the hate. And not, that doesn't mean everybody who likes Trump is going to the dark side. No, I mean, it's just, you really got to think what you're worshiping right now. And if it's anger and hatred and being a Karen and judging others over tiny little things and that stuff or not. And what I just said does not at all describe a lot of people I know that still like Trump. But if you're doing that, and it certainly does describe a lot of Democrats too. So I don't think it's going to split like that at all. But there's plenty of Democrat Karens out there. If all they are taught is darkness, and that's intentionally to keep them down, it makes sense if that's all they can manifest. Yeah, to some extent, but yet there are people that are taught that and they get out, and then there are people that aren't. And I do feel sorry for people, because I think that if they were taught better, maybe they wouldn't be there. But at the same time, you still choose repeatedly over and over. And I think now is the time of choosing, and I think people will get lost that maybe could have been saved if this world didn't suck as much as it has. So that's very sad, but at the same time, you still choose. So, I don't know what to say. Try to choose carefully. Think about what you're putting your energy into, and if it's a lot of negativity and fear and judgment and hatred, so you don't like Trump, but don't obsess about how you hate him all the time. It's not going to do anything. Think about what you want instead. Don't, I know people who just, I've noticed anytime somebody doesn't like Trump about one thing, like if I say one thing I don't like about Trump, then immediately I am accused of Trump derangement syndrome, which is really irritating, because I don't have a deranged hatred of anybody, and trying to pigeonhole anybody who doesn't totally agree with you on something isn't fair. But on the flip side, there really are people that are truly just obsessed with their hatred of Trump. And I'm like, dudes, you gotta move on with your life, I mean, like, there's somebody who used to be doing like this wellness, and she did this newsletter where she would herbal remedies and things that worked and stuff, and she's decided to abandon that all just to try to get rid of Trump. And I'm like, first of all, whatever you do is not going to do anything. And second of all, you could have helped so many people with what you were doing before. She's basically thrown out every positive, beneficial activity that she's been involved in for 30 years. And now all of her stuff is diatribes against Trump. And that's Trump derangement syndrome, Don't let hatred rule your life, You can disagree with someone and hope he's gone, without getting all sucked into that negativity and hatred and anger and, out of control. I mean, she's got the Trump derangement syndrome, truly. It's poisoning her brain. She says that Trump is poisoning everybody's brain, but her hatred of Trump is poisoning her brain just as much. It's just as much of a trap. Are you kidding? Trump supporters are not violent Marxist BLM or violent some Trump supporters are violent, and some Democrat Antifas are violent. I don't think we even know what Antifa is. I think Antifa is a convenient thing where anybody can put on a mask, say they're Antifa, and be violent. Definitely would condemn any of that, whatever their excuse is. It sucks. But I think there's probably like 10 different groups that conveniently use Antifa as their excuse. I mean, like if I want to burglarize something, or if I'm just an arson, I can just say I'm Antifa. You know, I mean, it's like anybody can claim they're Antifa. The police can claim they're Antifa, you know? So, yeah, there's definitely poison haters on both sides of that fence, of both fences. Degrees of hell. Yeah, definitely, you know. I mean, I'm not saying I'm perfect and that I never have a Karen-like thought in my life or anything like that. You know, maybe if I was a little better, I would have a little easier time of it. But, you know, we're not all perfect. Trump supporters, but people that worship him see him as a savior. Yeah, I think some people just wish that he was, like he's going to fix everything. Since when has a politician ever fixed everything? They've never fixed everything. Politician has rarely fixed anything. I can't even think of a single one. He's been in 5 years and he hasn't fixed anything. He's not going to fix anything. He started the lockdown. He initiated the first rules for getting out of lockdown, and they were fairly strict. He gave $2.1 billion to Gavi Vaccine Alliance, which is the #1 supporter of the WHO, and gives a lot more than the WHO than America ever did. And his supposed ending of the WHO funding doesn't kick in for an entire year, so they're still getting their funding for a whole year. And he's the one who's pushing very hard the vax. And with Operation, what do you call it, Warp Speed. And he's the one who put a big pharma shill in charge of all that, a very crooked big pharma shill. He did all that. So yeah, the Democrats are on board with all that, yes, but he did all that. And here's the thing, because he's a Republican, all the Republicans are sitting down, letting it happen, and not even complaining. And that's why it's happening under a Republican, because they know that the Republicans will put up with a lot more if it's a Republican telling them. So don't be fooled, people. He's not going to save your butt. At least we aren't in a big war. Don't set the bar too high. Who knows what would have happened if a Dem was in. It's not like Dems love war so much. Republicans are usually the ones that start the wars. That's why I think it's pretty funny when they were accusing Clinton of being a warmonger. I mean, I don't know what she would have done. Maybe she was a warmonger, but I mean, Republicans are usually the war starters. Everything is like backwards now, I swear. You know, and Republicans used to be the ones that didn't spend a lot of money. That went out the window too. Creepy thing is when you see spiritual people say they went from hating Trump to understanding that he is an angel on earth working to save humanity. The flip is so extreme. Well, I've not seen that, but yes, that would freak me out, because I think he's, you know, neither is useful. I mean, hey, maybe I'll be wrong, but I don't think so. I haven't seen any signs of it. 5 years he's been in, and all we've gotten is a big fat corporate tax break. And a lot more debt. And a lockdown. And then we don't forget that he was, White House memos have been pushing the Republican governors for mask mandates. Covered that one last week. I mean, it's not like I trust the Democrats either. I'm sure they'll be just as crooked, but don't be fooled, man. Maybe people just wish, maybe it's just a great fantasy that if my side, you pick a side, and if your side wins, then everything will be better. And the problem is really only with the other side, and my side is great. Well, guess what? When your side gets in, things are going to suck just the same. Maybe slightly differently sucking, but they always have. It's not going to get all better when your side gets in, just like it hasn't. Okay, so anyways, gigantic books that... I covered the organ. Okay, this one is interesting. We covered that jetpack thing. So there's more info on that weird flying jetpacks. Well, more info to confuse the story. It's like one of those, the more answers you get, the more questions you have. This is one of those. Wait. Okay. Where's the title? Okay, so as far as I can tell, okay, there's been several sightings of, to review the old stories, there's been several sightings of jetpacks, people in jetpacks up so high, like by airplanes. So airplanes are flying into Los Angeles airport and seeing a person in a jetpack up there. And like the whole plane saw it on that side, and the pilot radioed it in to ground control. I just saw a guy with a jetpack. And then another plane came up behind and went, oh my God, I saw the guy with the jetpack too. So there's something that looks like a guy with a jetpack up there. And so the Mandela is like, we don't remember jetpacks being able to fly that high. Well, now this fits in with something weirder than a Mandela, because now the jetpack maker is saying, well, we don't think a jetpack can fly that high either. It's not every jetpack maker, but basically there's only a few jetpack makers out there. And this one, you know, when you're a jetpack maker, you know your competition. And this one is basically saying that we don't know of any technology that could do that. None of us have heard about anybody doing something like this. Now, as far as I can tell, there's no actual video of the actual jetpack. So although some videos show a guy in a jetpack, it's not the actual video of the actual event. I like this unconfirmed jetpack sightings. I mean, like, the whole plane saw it, and several pilots radioed in the exact same thing. So it's pretty much confirmed as far as I'm concerned. Pilots from 2 different airlines saw what one American airline employee described as a guy in a jetpack. I've actually listened to the audio, and it sounds like the other guy said, yes, it's a guy in a jetpack also. Okay, so, first of all, they're saying it would be stupid to fly around there because you get arrested, you could get hit by an airplane, etc. They're talking about, like, you've got 10 minutes worth of fuel, and it takes 7 minutes to reach 6,000 feet, which is where they were spotted. So how would you get back down? Unless you had, like, a parachute, and nobody spotted a parachuting jetpack guy. And it would be pretty obvious if you were... Also, these things are loud, so they probably would have been heard going over Los Angeles. And if they parachuted down, they would have been seen, and that you'd have to be insane to do it. No one's perfected a recovery system. It would be super scary and dangerous. We wouldn't do it. Here's another thing that nobody's gotten any video of it from down below. So some people were saying, well, maybe somebody jury-rigged some kind of a mannequin on drones. But I don't see how you're going to hide the drone part of it, because you need a pretty big drone to carry a whole mannequin. And it would have to be reasonably heavy, otherwise it'd be flapping in the wind like a flag. You couldn't just have like an inflated dummy because it would just bounce around in the wind. So it'd have to be pretty heavy. You'd have to have a pretty hefty drone, then you probably would see it. So I don't think the mannequin story fits very well, but that's what somebody is suggesting. Any teen could put this together from parts from China. I don't think you could put, mannequins are heavy, they're not that easy to fly. The other thing that was in here somewhere was that they talked to the radar, to the ground control radar, and the radar saw nothing because they checked the airspace around, and they did not find a man in a jetpack, nor a drone, or any such thing. Nothing was discovered. So if they had a whole mannequin up there, radar should have been able to see it. It wasn't there, according to the radar. So the whole story is very weird. Maybe not a Mandela, though, so I'm kind of retracting my Mandela statement because we're not sure if this is real. The only thing I was racking my brains trying to figure out is that it could have been a hologram, because there's not really any hologram tech that should be able to do this out on the open market, but there are a lot of rumors of the military having hologram tech that could do something like this to kind of confuse the enemy and stuff. So if you hologrammed it, then that would account for there being no noise. And it would solve the problem of how it got up there, and there would be no fuel issues or anything. And it also, as far as I can tell, would probably not be visible on radar. I was trying to look to see if holograms are visible on radar, and I couldn't really find a definitive answer, but it does sound like it's certainly possible that radar would not be able to detect hologram. So maybe somebody was messing around with a hologram up there. Then you wouldn't have to worry about the hologram getting clobbered by an airplane, right? Because it's not really there. Anyway, so probably not a Mandela then, because this tech really actually doesn't exist according to this company. At least that is my current guess, not a Mandela. So that's a retraction. That was found by my friend PJ, my online friend. So she gets the credit for that one. All right, I've got two more. I think we're starting to see the way radar starts failing since strange things appear to radar a month or so ago for me and partially connected with another timeline. Yeah, that could be another thing. Could have been a timeline thing. Maybe in some timelines they can fly that. Maybe it's getting so flippy-floppy. Yeah, that's a good point. I actually should have thought of that. Putting it in people's minds so that we could have them. Is it another mind seeding thing? But they're not officially here yet. That's all I can really say at this point. You think Trump will win a second term? I've said before that I do think so, because he seems to fit with his timelines where he's very divisive. He has an amazing skill at infuriating the Democrats and stirring up anger. All the tension's on him all the time. Biden's not a very good candidate. So that's why I think he'll win. I just think that he is the mechanism for the current timeline. He fits in with the division of the current timeline. Certainly he's not fully responsible for it. There's a whole bunch of it going on that he's not directly responsible, but that just seems to be the thing. Division. And he's a genius at it. You know, he just knows what to say to irritate the living crap out of people, except for his own, people. And Biden can't hold a candle to that skill. He's just kind of boring. That's why I think he'll win. I mean, I might be wrong, but that's always been, and it's a bit of I'm going out on a bit of a limb now because he's definitely behind, supposedly, in the polls. I don't know how much we can trust polls in the current timeline, though, because, I mean, the economy doesn't make sense, so, anything can happen at this point, but I still think that's where my mind, I'm not going to say 100%, but I still think that he is the most likely to win. Also because this whole COVID thing will go forward easier under him because the Republicans aren't fighting it. They're going along with it. They'll go along with it. And if Biden gets in and tries to push the C thing, then well, I like to think they would fight more, but they'll definitely complain a lot louder. Whether they really do anything, who knows? But I think they're definitely a lot more likely to do something if Biden tries to push the C thing. If Trump kind of pushes it sneaky in the behind the scenes like he has been doing, but publicly kind of pretends not to have knowledge of it, I mean, that's been working great. Look how far we've gotten in 5 years with that strategy. So if you're trying to push the C, that's like the perfect strategy. So I think that's the other reason why I think. I think Biden will. Well, Biden's certainly ahead. So logic, pure logical, assuming we could trust any of that anymore. The numbers, I wonder what the betting numbers are. Let's see. What do you call that? The betting, the odds. Okay. What are the odds? Now remember, the odds were against Trump last time. I think they're probably against him more now, but we don't have that much longer to go. Trump's odds of victory, as shown on the betting sites, toggled between 36 and 43%. Well, that's not horrible odds. I mean, I definitely would prefer to, if I was running, to be on the other side of those, but them aren't odds where it would be a freak of nature if he won. That's why I was wondering if something would happen to Biden at the last minute, like he would get the C, and then there would be questions about his surviving, and then Trump would win because of that. I don't know. I just was waiting to see if we'll get some kind of a drama out of this. It just seems to me like this isn't gonna pass by without squeezing more division and drama out of it. You got to have as much as possible in the current timeline, it seems like. Well, that one's like complicated, but anyway, yeah. So maybe he's got like about a 40% chance of winning as of 2 days ago. All right, let's see what Swingometer predicts. Of course, as closer we get, with the odds still against him, makes the odds worse for him. What are the latest odds? Trailing by 41.8%. Because, with the American system, it depends on what states you get. So even if you lose the popular vote, you can still win if you get the right states. So they have to consider what states you'll win, not just if you're popular. It looks like it's about the same. Okay, so yeah, it's about 60-40. So I'm only a little bit out of a limb. I'm not even saying who I want to win because I don't know. I think what's supposed to happen is what's going to happen. It doesn't really matter. I actually voted Libertarian anyways. California always votes Democrat, and all the votes go to the same place, so it doesn't matter what I vote because California's going Democrat. So might as well give my vote to the Libertarians because A, I like them better than the other two choices, and B, it'd be nice to have a third party maybe. I wonder why you guys don't like Trump. Well, I'm not going to get into all that. I don't like any of them, but I think they're both showing signs of senility for once. I think this has got to be the first presidential election where I've felt like both of them may have mental issues. Like, which one of those two are you going to pick? All right, so let's talk about that ironclad beetle, shall we? Somebody brought it up earlier. The one I saw it from, I think this must have been like something that went viral because I saw it suddenly in like 3 or 4 places. But I saw it first from the user on Redcon called Will Work for Answers. This person does find a lot of them. The ironic part is these, I've seen these. They live around here. I've been a little suspicious of these for a number of years as being new to the area. About 8 years ago, maybe. There's 2 kinds. There's this one that looks like bird turds. I've not seen this bird turd one. But they're supposed to be from the same general family. Basically, they can tolerate so much pressure on their whatever exoskeleton, I think you call it, that you can run them over with a car and they won't die. That's how powerful they are. So you can't squish them by stomping them. Okay, so these guys are my local ones here. So these guys, I think, showed up for me about 8 years ago. We used to just have these black ones that I call stink bugs. People say that the black ones stink if you mess with them. I have never smelled anything. They're big and they don't bite, so I generally just grab them. The stink bugs look more like that, but this is not my exact stink bug. I wonder if my stink bugs are... I actually wonder if my stink bugs are one of these ironclads. But I definitely in the past have seen these smooshed and stink bugs smooshed by cars and things. So something smooshed them. I have not seen them smooshed lately, though. So apparently if you run these over the car, they're not smooshed. I have seen these smooshed. So yeah, these guys just showed up, and I was a little confused because I had only seen the black stink bugs for most of my tenure in this location. And then suddenly I started seeing these gray, flatter, kind of like, they look like they're made out of the road material, you know. So apparently these are ironclad. I just thought they were a variety of stink bugs. I wonder if stink bugs are one of them. Stink bugs. Ironclad beetle stink bugs. Pinnacati. These, I think, are the ones I'm thinking of. Pinnacates. I just remember these. Yeah, like here. These are like the ones I remember. So maybe these aren't ironclads. I've seen these squished too. People have sworn to me that these stink, but I've never yet smelled anything. Yeah, see, it says they stink. I don't know. I always grab them with like paper in case they're gonna stink, but I've yet to smell anything. All right, so these aren't ironclads, but these are the only ones we had for the longest time. So yeah, I'm really suspicious about this. I think these are new. So these are southwestern beetles here. I'm not sure where those bird turd version ones come. I've not seen these. Texas Ento. Maybe they're in Texas from this website. Kind of sounds like it. Texas ironclad beetle. All right, you Texans can get the bird turd ones. Those are definitely quite a different look than mine. All right. So this next one is really, this is the last one, and it's a very strange science one. Maybe ironclad turned into... No, I still see the pinnacades, too. I still see the stink bugs. So basically, originally there was only stink bugs, and then we got, like, both of them. I don't know how they get in the house. You'll see those things walking across. I'm like, the crack under the door is not big enough for those things. I don't know how they get in here. We got that. We got freaking tarantulas in here, 2 of them this year, and a couple scorpions. I'm like, how are they getting in here? If it goes to Supreme Court, then Trump will win. Yeah, see, I was wondering if something like that would happen. Like, there's got to be something. Like, it gets real close, and then Trump only wins because of some kind of cheating or something. There's got to be something like that. Because I think he has to win, but there's got to be, like, division, you know? So I just keep waiting to see what kind of drama is going to show up. Biden's just kind of, he is kind of boring. He's like ordinary. This timeline doesn't like ordinary. Shiny metal, silver. I put those metal ones on. I think I've done the silvery. Silverfish are new. Silverfish are fairly old for me, but man, there are tons of them now. They used to be so rare. I don't know how they... I live out here in the country. Where did they come from? All right, so this is pretty bizarre. This one comes from, oh my God, I can't even read my spell. It's from RuneWolf77. Found this one. Good find, good find, good find. This one actually, I don't know, do you guys remember say that plants convert CO2 to oxygen? That was always the story. I'm going to get rid of all this advertising. Plants convert CO2 to oxygen. I know I learned that like 100 times. 101 times. Well, apparently they don't anymore. They convert water to oxygen now. And I was just like, no. That was like a basic tenet. That was CO2 to oxygen. The O2 from the CO2 was converted to O2 to oxygen. You know, I mean, like, that's where the oxygen is. So now apparently they convert H2O to oxygen. They convert water to oxygen, and then the carbon dioxide is converted to carbohydrates. So it's, the whole thing is different. Like, the whole way plants operate is different now. I was like, no. So it's just an old myth now. It's an old myth that plants... Why would people even think that then if it never was true? I mean, like, remember how they used to say that? You know, I mean, it was on the news like every day. They don't do it now. I guess you can still say they're a sink for CO2 because they convert the carbon of it to carbohydrates, but... And they do create oxygen, but it's from water now. So if you water them more, do you get more oxygen? That is like so wrong. They're unreal facts. Unreal facts. I should actually look at that. Let's find that. Yeah, I should look at that URL and see what else is on there. Whoop, can't find. Wait, let's see. All right, fine. I won't do Unreal Facts because I can't find it. That article. All right, let me just. I can't find the article I originally found. Myths. I'll type it like this. Plants don't convert CO2 into O2. Articles about photosynthesis in popular press or online often make me cringe. Why? Because sometimes they lead people to think that oxygen produced by photosynthesis is derived from carbon dioxide. Yeah, and like every class I ever took in high school and college that I got an A on also taught us that. And I do remember actually doing the number crunching, and I sadly cannot remember the algorithm now for the, because it's a step process. It doesn't just jump one to the other. This is to this and to this and to this. But it did go from CO2 to O2. It was not CO2 to carbohydrates and H2O to O2. That was not how it was. It was CO2 to O2. It's a kind of a long process, so it's hard to remember it after all those long years. But this is simply not true. The oxygen you breathe comes from water. Yes, that's correct. H2O. Anyway, it just goes all into it, but this was not it. Now it's 2H2O. See, this is the algorithms I was talking about. I don't know what you call these, but 2H2O goes to 4E plus 4H plus O2. It was not this. It didn't come from H2O. There was not two. That's just not right. That was total. It's totally different now. This one, I don't know. If you're really into science, this one's like huge. So the whole way that plants operate or supposedly operate is totally different now. I mean, their whole chemistry is different now. This is like monstrous. Maybe because there's not that much CO2 in the atmosphere anymore. There's only a tiny little wibbity bit in, the atmosphere's got a whole different makeup now with all that nitrogen that they can't really live on carbon dioxide anymore because there isn't much of it. But still, I mean, that's huge. Formula, yeah, okay, whatever you want to call it. Tarantula and scorpions in the house, yikes. And it wasn't just me. People on next door were all complaining about the same. Like how they were all finding these things in their house. How were they getting in? And if you know tarantulas, they're very delicate. I just can't see one squeezing under the door. When they are squished, they stink. Oh, the stink bugs? Okay, maybe that's it. But I grab them and I throw them out and they don't stink then. So it must take a lot to squish them to make them stink you. CO2. Okay, so a lot of you still remember like I do. CO2 to oxygen, CO2. Why would they even say that if it's ridiculously wrong all this time? No more greenhouse gas. No, we're the ones that are creating the greenhouse gas, not the plants. So well, that's the story anyway. I don't even listen anymore because the whole atmosphere is completely different. And now I'm just like, whatever. And all those things that were supposed to happen for 30 years that we were all going to die because of the giant CO2 greenhouse thing. You know, forget Republicans versus Democrats. The Mandela has totally convinced me. I'm like, I'm not even worried about that anymore. Always funny, those common misunderstandings. Yeah. Yeah, I'll never really think of those the same now because you always, if a whole bunch of people remember something, you got to wonder if that's just from some timeline, you know, and maybe because a lot of them are from my timeline, but there's a few that I didn't have. Like, there are so many people who absolutely swear that they learned in school that men had one less rib than women. And that was absolutely not in my timeline. But there are just so many people that I just find it hard to believe that they were all taught that and it wasn't true. In like even people who came from regular schools, not religious schools. So, I mean, in my timeline, the story is Adam gave one rib for Eve, but then it was just Adam that was missing a rib, not like every man after Adam. Like if you take my rib out and I have a child, my child's not missing a rib. And so it was the same way with Adam, you know, which made total sense according to normal propagation theory. But apparently in some timeline, they were missing a rib. I don't know. But there's just been so many people who have said that. Women had what it seems was Adam's rib that was used to make Eve. So that's why Adam was supposedly had one less. And that's why men, it was kind of a religion thing. It supported the Bible. I mean, I don't know. Maybe there was another timeline with something else, but I have only heard of that one where the men had less. And that's why I remember, because it supported the Bible. Yeah, I never heard of exosomes until recently either. I certainly never studied those things. But you know, I've mentioned that mitochondria operate very differently here than when I studied, and I did a lot of studying on mitochondria. Yeah, a lot of people thought maybe it was like an allegory for like genetic engineering, like that they would take some of the genetics out of the bone marrow. Although you wouldn't have to steal the whole rib, but maybe they didn't. Maybe they made it out of a rib, meaning they took a little material out of the rib, and maybe they didn't really mean to say that they yanked out his whole rib. Maybe they just meant she was made out of a bit of rib. Yeah, and the regenerating of the ribs, that's pretty trippy. Yep, see, Boiling Frogs remembers that. So, like, what did the mainstream non-religious people say about that? Because what was their excuse for why men had one less rib? Because the Bible people would say it was because of God, right? But what was the reasoning the rest of the people said for it? And did dogs, like if did a male dog have one less rib than a female dog? How did that work? I'm always curious about that timeline. I mean, was it all the males and all the females or just the humans? Because That's pretty weird. I mean, why would you be asymmetrical like that? If you didn't believe in God, it'd be kind of hard to come up with a story about it. I wonder how Adam's rib didn't grow back. It should have been, according to the new. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it shouldn't have had a problem to grow back. I mean, I think the current story says if the sheath is damaged, it won't grow back. But I mean, if God was pilfering a rib to make Eve, why would he could just not damage the sheath then, right? So that's why, yeah, a lot of people would say that they didn't really mean he was missing a rib. They just meant that rib material was used, and then people not understanding it assumed that a rib was missing. You could see how that would work because they wouldn't understand genetic engineering. The other people probably said the religion tried to explain nature by blaming it on God. Um, yeah, it's just that it's kind of strange to just be asymmetrical in the ribs. I mean, if the ribs are there to protect the organs, why would the men not have one? And only in if it's only in the humans, because I mean, dogs, cats, and all those others, if they still had symmetrical ribs, then why would suddenly the humans just not? I guess you could say that the Bible was written that way because men had one less rib, but from a Darwinian perspective, there's no real reason why men would have one less rib. So I guess, we can't really rely on science to always have a logical explanation because obviously that we've seen that sometimes their explanations really suck, but you would think they would at least try. As I recall, nature abhors symmetry. Huh. Well, yeah, I've heard stupider arguments than that, certainly. That's one thing I'm always curious about, though. What is their excuse for that? Nature abhors symmetry. Somehow I could just see that being the excuse, though, even though it makes no real sense. I don't remember nature, I don't see nature abhorring symmetry, but I can see that happening. Yeah, the Marilyn Manson one. I've heard that story. I don't know. I've heard that story, and then I've heard it wasn't true. Then I heard it was true. Um, I should, first it was true, then it wasn't true, then it was true. I think it's not true currently. That one's a real flippy floppy. The argument was that women needed the extra because of childbirth. Ooh, that's interesting. Okay, how does that rib help childbirth though? Women needed the. So it wasn't that men were missing a rib, it was that women had an extra rib. Did they have an extra rib on both sides or just one side? Because if they had it on both sides, I guess it kind of, like to protect the child, maybe? Darwin also thought that change had happened very gradually, but there's no real evidence. Yeah, well, now with the Mandela, and I see these animals changing and showing up like that, I'm like, Darwin, meh, whatever. I'm not into that anymore. Yeah, see that Lilith thing. That Lilith thing. I don't think that Lilith thing was in my original timeline. When did that Lilith thing with the other wife show up? That was like about 3 years ago when suddenly there was this Lilith thing where Adam had another wife before Eve. That was really creepy. I had not heard that until like 3 years ago. Yeah, actually, if there was just more ribs on both sides, that would make sense. Voidscape does not remember Lilith either. Yeah, I'm really suspicious of that one. Bible changes. Women possess less ribs for birth. Yeah, but the story was that we had more ribs. More ribs. But you could say it was to protect the child. You know, the ribs are not the problem when it comes to having the baby. It's the hip bones. So... yeah, Crunchy Bee doesn't remember Lilith either. Adam and Lilith. Yeah, let's look up that Lilith baloney here. I should have been tracking this more carefully anyways. Lilith. All right, let's do KJV. Okay, so Jewish legend then. I thought that was in the Bible for a while or something, but I'm not 100% sure. There's a Jewish legend found in rabbinic literature that the first woman was Lilith, who out of pride, stubbornness, and rebellious nature abandoned Adam, and she was transformed into a demon. The only one reference to female demon in the Bible's Old Testament, but not explicitly to Lilith, is found in the passage of Isaiah in regarding to punishing the people of Edom. And the wild cats shall meet with the jackals, and the satyr shall cry to his fellow. Yea, the night monster shall repose there, and shall find her place of rest. Isaiah 34:14. With this translation from KJV, most people believe that the night monster was a female demon. The Jewish Publication Society is more explicit in mentioning Lilith. Wildcats shall meet the hyenas, goat demons shall greet each other. Thereto the Lilith shall repose and find herself a resting place. Isaiah 34:14. There are no other mentions of Lilith in the Old Testament, nor are there mentions of Lilith in any of the apocryphal and pseudepigraphal. Oh my gosh, that word. Pseudepigraphal writings. I don't know how to pronounce that one. Many scholars now believe that Genesis has two different versions about the creation. The story of writing in Genesis 1 is different than that of Genesis 2:3. Genesis 2:3 is written in more storytelling style, being more dramatic than the first chapter. It would seem that Eve was created from Adam's rib after the seventh day of creation. On the other hand, had both men and women on the same day. Genesis 1:26, on the other hand, had both man and woman on the same day, the sixth day. It makes no mention of Eden, the creation of man out of the earth, and the woman out of man's rib. The fact that they were never named in Genesis 1. So could this unnamed woman from Genesis 1 actually be the first wife of Adam? Just because woman is unnamed in Genesis 1 doesn't mean she is Lilith. Okay, so it's a little nebulous at this time. Below is a summary about Lilith in the Haggadah, chapter 2. After the creation of the world and all of the animals, God created Adam out of the dust from the Garden of Eden. He placed the soul in this physical human body. Adam's soul was actually created on the first day of creation when the face of God reflected from the water. Adam had a perfect body, beautiful, strong, in the image of God. I won't go into more detail about the fall of Satan, except to say that Satan and his followers refused to bow to the first man and was flung out of heaven. God saw that Adam was just one human, so he will need a partner to keep him company, but the relationship didn't last long. Like Adam, Lilith was created out of the soil. Since she was made out of the same substance as Adam, she regarded herself as Adam's equal, not inferior in any way to Adam. Lilith demanded equality because she argued that she created from the dust of the world just like Adam. Adam's refusal to accept her as his equal led to her rejecting and abandoning him. According to medieval texts known as the Alphabet of Ben Sirah, Lilith refused to lie below when they were having sex. Lilith refused to the passive and submissive partner. This refusal, however, is not found in Haggadah. Speaking God's name, she grew wings and flew away to the Red Sea. In the desert, she had spawned 100 of demons. Adam complained to God that his wife had abandoned him, and now he was alone. God commanded angels to bring Lilith back to Adam. The angels tried to force her to return, or she would lose her children. Lilith adamantly refused to live with Adam. She took her revenge by killing human babies, boys when they were only a day old, while girls up to 20 days old. Where did these human babies come from? If there was just Adam and her, maybe that was later on that they're talking about. The only way to ward her off was to adorn each babe with an amulet with the names of 3 angels. See, now here, so God created another woman for Adam, Eve. I mean, that can't come after this point, because where did all these human babies come from then? Lilith reappeared in chapter 3 of the Haggadah, where it listed the descendants of Adam and Lilith. So what, all those demon children of hers were from Adam? How did she get descendants then? After the murder of his son Abel by his elder son Cain, Adam refused to sleep with Eve. Adam deserted Eve rather than father another child that would die. During the nights, Lilith visited him and mated with him while he slept, and she bore him countless demons that would beset the world. Huh. Unlike the Genesis, the Jubilees also mentions a couple of daughters of Adam, Awan and Azura. There are most likely to be a number of other daughters, but we are not certain of the number nor their names. Cain took Awan as his wife, while Seth married Azura. All right, so now we're getting into quite the mess over here, so I don't think we need to continue on with that. Anyway, so, keep an eye on that one, but it doesn't seem to be in the Bible currently anyways. In Genesis, God tells A and E to replenish the earth. Replenish. I don't know, that one's tricky because it may just not be a very good translation. Translate 2 or 3 languages, and sometimes the meaning gets a little skewed. Yeah, see, I mean, I don't really say I'm a feminist, but I'm certainly not gonna be like the subordinate one either. I think you should be equals. So the problem comes when you start like killing babies. But how did she kill babies when they weren't? I don't get how she killed human babies when he hasn't had any human. There's been no human babies yet. I don't know. That whole story is weird. A recent Bible change in me is wherever two or more are gathered. Change to wherever two or three or more. Yeah, I don't know whether three doesn't really seem useful. Because if you got two or more, then you don't need the three. I don't know, there's so many Bible changes. It's a mess. One says trespasses and one said debts. Debts, no, there was only trespasses for me originally. And debts showed up in some of the Bible versions. Then the next thing you know, it was in like all of the Bible versions. And trespasses was in some other book that wasn't Bible version, and just like some of the super ancient Bible versions. And now there was like that new one. What was it? I can't remember now. That's not debts. It's some whole other one. Anyway, these stories, they'll probably change again, so just keep an eye on them. I'm wondering if this will show up in the Bible eventually, though, because it seems to be like sneaking in. There were other humans on Earth before Adam, according to the Calvinist interpretation. There's a lot of stuff that you're like, oh, you know, that needs some splaining, let's just say. But Cain went to Enod to get a wife. There were other babies. Yeah, so, I mean, like, it just, I'm like, okay, there's some pieces of the puzzle missing because those pieces won't fit together right. Yeah, no need to get riled over ever-changing stories. Yeah, a lot of these stories I read now, I'm like, was it even that way 10 years ago? You know? Lucy, you got some splaining to do. Yep. Another Mandela. I'm not... I'm more sure about those, I'm sorry to say. I mean, there's some Bible parts that I was very interested in. And also, you know, the Bible gets tricky because of all those versions. That's why I just look at the KJV all the time now, because it's already tricky enough with the versions. I'm just going to look at the one. How about the Vatican, the whole complex? Oh, yeah, that whole creepy statue thing behind the Pope now. That's overchanging. Wonder what it looks like. It hasn't been that long since I looked at it. Statue. What do you call that thing? That thing is creepy. What is that frightening sculpture behind the Pope? It's the resurrection. Oh, I don't want the resurrection to look like that. I'm sorry. That is not the resurrection that I'm looking for. This atrocity of a statue. I mean, what is that? And look at this head. It looks like a snake head. These bulby things are really taking over. When I first saw this, it was almost all these strands, like these ribbons. In fact, it was all ribbons. It was ribbons. And it was just ribbons. Okay, so it was creepy, but it wasn't as bad as this because I don't know what these bulby things are. And I've been trying to see if are these like, it looks like there's a bunch of fingers in here or something now and heads, but I can't quite see what these ball things are. I keep trying to find an image that I can see what those balls are. The blobs. It just seems like they're always just a little too blurry to quite make out. Let's see if I can see it on this one. Yeah. Undeniable. There's nobody I know that says that thing looks anything besides demonic. What are these ball things? I mentioned before recently, I think, that the last few months, the neck of Jesus is degrading, like it's disintegrating. So let's see if you can see it. Now you can't quite see it there. Look at how skinny Jesus has gotten. He looks like a skeleton. He wasn't that bad before. But also, see, right here in the neck, it's disintegrating. I'll try to find it close up. I can't figure out what these blobs are. It was all the ribbons before. Now it's 2/3 these ball things. That is the most gruesome looking thing. Who would have possibly decided that this was a good thing to put behind the Pope? I mean, that is just absolutely ridiculous on the face of it. Okay, so here, see, the neck is starting to degrade. This is what I saw last time. It was like maybe a month ago. This is new here with the beard damage has spread. So it's just basically eating away. Jesus is eating away in this statue. I've been kind of watching this as maybe like a parable to what's going on. Jesus gets thinner and thinner, and he's like disintegrating. So hopefully at some point it'll reverse or something. But see, it looks like bat wings on him and stuff. It wasn't this bad when it was always gruesome from at least from the first time I saw it, but it wasn't as gruesome as it is now. He didn't look like a skeleton. Look at the head. Does that not look just like a freaking monster head? But that's his hair up there. I mean, why would they make Jesus look like he's disintegrating? It's just not right. It looks like there might be some arm damage now. I'm trying to get a close-up of that arm. Okay. Oh, it's just the wing thing on there, maybe? That might be just this fabric stuff, supposedly. Okay. I still don't remember seeing that. So anyway, I'm just watching the decay. I'm hoping that at some point we'll see something else. I don't know what, but something better. It seems like this is just indicative. Yeah, see how much is chewed out of the neck now. What's this thing in the back? So anyway, yeah, I don't know. Didn't mean to end on a depressing note, but there you go. I do think we're gonna have more baloney before it gets better, but I do think we can get through it. The Sistine Chapel mural is a huge Emmy with Jesus looking more like Jason. And Jesus' butt, I mean, God's butt, really? They're gonna show God's naked butt on the Sistine Chapel. That one hasn't changed for a while, but there is no way that God's naked butt. What is the meaning of Michelangelo painting God's bum? I never noticed God's naked bum, but in the empty, quiet iciness of a gallery in Winchester. It's not that pink now, is it? I'm going to have to look because I don't remember his butt being pink. Last I checked it, anyway. How could it be that they were not completely outraged by Michelangelo showing the naked butt of God? I found many references to the picture, most of which admired the vigor and movement of the painting, but I found only one that suggested any discomfort with the painting. God making the plant world. Okay, so what? We have no reason why they would show his butt is not... I mean, that's completely disrespectful and obnoxious. It was innovative. Why didn't they paint over the painting, require Michelangelo to change it, or imprison it, or execute Michelangelo? I know, that's what I said. The work has been a veritable beacon to our art, illuminating all painting and the world, which has remained in darkness for so many centuries. To show the greatness of God and the protection of art, he represents the dividing of light from darkness. So you showed his butt? I mean, like, this is just wrong. It is so wrong. It was not... I mean, it's an older one. Wow, it really is getting all pink. Look at a lot of them are showing it as really pink now. Check it out. He's turned pink. It was not pink before. That's ridiculous. That is not right. It was not pink. All right, I'm going to look for the least. Yeah, look at it's all pink now. Look at that. That's the least pink one there is, and it's pretty pink. You can see some of his hip now. Yeah, his butt. Here's what I saw when I first learned of it. You could only see like a sliver of his butt, and then as the shifts have come, you could see more and more butt. Now, the last time I saw it, you could see the whole butt, but you could not see the hip. So now you can see a hip on this side and a little bit on that side, like love handles or something. And it wasn't pink. So it's all turned all pink now. Some of the hues on this is ridiculous. So yeah, I don't know. He's going to be like totally naked if this keeps up. You look, the heels of the feet are still skin color, but the butt is all pink. It's too pink. The hands are still the skin color. That's not right. It wasn't like that last time. This is another one I'm kind of watching to just see like what's up. Is the Sistine Chapel. These supposed cherubs get older and older. See these cherubs, these used to be little babies, and now they look like adolescents and stuff. And this was a baby, and now it's like a naked woman, basically, that he's got his arms. He's got his arms around a naked woman. And so apparently nobody cares in this timeline, but that is absolutely ridiculous. So yeah, the Sistine Chapel, what a mess that's turned out to be. So I watched this one. This one doesn't look like it's changed too much, but he's maybe just another hair tick lower compared to Adam now. He used to be way up here. This used to be a baby. At some point his hand got all crooked like that too. It didn't used to be like that. And also this other hand wraps around now. Wasn't like that originally. So yeah, creepy business. Creepy business. There's no way in my old time. There's no way in my old time that those timeline that those would be there. There's no way. Now it matches scripture. God warned Moses he couldn't see his face, but he could see his behind parts. Yeah, but this is not Moses's butt. Oh, really? I don't even know about that part of the scripture. Wait, God warned Moses he couldn't see his face. Let me just see, because I've never even heard of that. You cannot see my face, for no one may see me and live. I have not heard of that one ever. Indeed, I have seen God face to face, yet my life was spared. Exodus 33:18. What did Moses see when he saw the back of God? The Lord passed before him and proclaimed, the Lord, a God, merciful and gracious, slow to anger, blah, 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 blah. You cannot see my face, for man shall not see me and live. And the Lord said, behold, there is a place by me where you shall stand on the rock, and while my glory passes by, I will put you in a cleft of the rock, and I will cover you with my hand until I have passed by. Then I will take away my hand, and you will see my back, but my face shall not be seen. All right, well, I still... I'm sorry, but just because you said I'll see your back doesn't mean they have to show a naked butt. I'm not buying that one. I mean, unless they're going to argue that that's a bad translation or something. It says in the Bible, you're going to see my naked butt. I don't think so. It's just completely disrespectful and ridiculous. Naked babies turned into naked babes. I know, it's ridiculous. It's just totally like, I can't believe that like nobody's flipping out about this stuff. Where not many people are besides us Mandela people. Or it's actually pink on my monitor. Does it look orange on yours? Because it looks totally pink. That bit of scripture is part of the Emmy for me. I have never heard anything about not being able to see the Lord's face and live. I have never heard of that before. And that's kind of creepy, scary. It's kind of the thing you'd kind of remember. Moses couldn't see him at all. There were no loophole like Medusa. I don't remember any of that cleft of the rock and the back and they can't see my face and all that. I don't remember any of that. I mean, I don't think I recall them ever seeing any, like, you know, you see a burning bush and stuff like that. I'm trying to remember if anybody ever saw any God parts. You know, you just saw things that represented him. Like, he didn't really have a structure like a human that you could see. The cleft. Oh, don't start with me boiling frogs. He was put in the cleft of a rock. Now, don't start with me, man. Don't go there. Don't go there. All right. Anyway, it's 3:30, so I think it's time for me to hit the hay, as they say. At least we kind of slightly less horrible ending. Bible thumpers make excuses for Moses' horns. Never talk about Moses with horns until Moses' horns is new. Oh, so God turned pink? I don't know what that means. Pink. His butt. Why is his butt pink, but his hands and feet are still skin color? That, I don't know. You know, you always feel like these must mean something, but what? You know, I just, as good as I am as imagining meanings to things, there's nothing really obvious. Radiation. No, I don't know. Jeez. All right, I think it's time for me to head out. So try your best to think good thoughts, everyone. This is Eva signing off for Once Upon a Timeline.